submit his evidence.
Hi, you're welcome back to the big issue. We are on 97.3 City FM. We are looking at two key issues. One is the Galamsey matter and matters arising. The report was leaked sometime last week, and it's been discussed widely, but there's been reactions from the report. Of course, there were some reactions the week before, but it appears that more reactions have come. Now, government itself, Office of the President, has responded in a press release. We will share that with you and deal with the content of that press release, analyze some of the things that have been said in that press release, and see what the direction of government really is. Government says in that press release that the President's commitment to the fight against Galamsey is unassailable. What does that mean? If the commitment is unassailable, does the conduct show same? A report presented to you in March 2021, unless, of course, the Chief of Staff did not transmit the report, or why won't she even do that if she understood the importance of the fight and the priority we're made to believe the President placed on the Galamsey fight? We will look at all of that. The second part of the show, look at the school feeding program. The caterers are on strike. They are not getting their monies. They've been owed about 3 terms, which is almost a year. They were to be pre-financing the project or the cooking. Now, they say they do not have money again. They also say cost of living has gone up. And that is true. Inflation is high, etc. But they keep paying 95 or so pesos per child. And they say they cannot take that anymore. They want it increased to 2 cedis. We do not know what direction government is taking with this. We also know that some CSOs in the education space have written to the IMF asking that they exempt the education sector from what they described as brutal cuts in the education budget. We will look at all of that in context whilst we discuss the matter of the school feeding program, what lies ahead, what happens to the children now that the caterers are on strike, etc. The purpose of the school feeding program is to increase enrollment and retention. Now that the children are not being fed, will they go to school at all? Can we keep them in school? We'll look at all of that. This is 97.3 City FM, and the program is A Big Issue, and my name is Selom Adunu. Now, to provide you some updates, following the reaction by the presidency, that is to that Galamsey report, the Member of Parliament for South Dai, Roxy Nelson Dafiamako, petitioned SHRAG to investigate the damning report on Galamsey in Ghana. According to the legislator, the revelations in the report have necessitated his action to fall on the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice to probe the report further. There is more in this report.
South Dai MP Roxy Nelson Dafiamako on Tuesday petitioned the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice to investigate alleged corrupt practices, conflict of interest in a report by the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, for which Professor Frimpong Boateng served as the chairman. The petition, dated April 25, 2023, indicates that a report of the Ministerial Committee has exposed the severity and damage caused to the forest reserve and water bodies in the country. This has become one of the major problems yet to be tackled by the government. The Office of the President has also rejected the report, describing the allegations as hearsay without any factual evidence. But the lawyers for the South Dai MP, led by Nick Papo Ado, the matter must be independently probed for punitive measures to be taken against the culprits.
He has an emergency in his constituency, so he couldn't be here himself, but as his lawyer, we have done the needful by filing the petition with the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice. It was received by the Commissioner himself. We would have an acknowledgement letter by tomorrow, and they would begin investigations immediately. They have a process by which they go through. They first have to assess the petition and find out whether we have met the basic requirements that qualify the petition to be investigated. Once that is done, they would then issue out the necessary letters to the parties that are concerned and affected for them to respond to the allegations contained therein. And then, based on that, they would then do their preliminary investigations and, if necessary, begin sittings in respect of the particular case. So it's a process. Once you activate it, we expect that it will move smoothly and timeously. It is something that we'll be following. We have requested for public hearings in respect of this particular matter. We expect that there should be no reason why we should not have same. In fact, the commission indicates to me that they always hold public hearings. It's just that sometimes you, the media, don't seem to be too interested. It goes beyond the issues of corruption and allegations of conflict of interest that have been made against certain public officers. Our concern is the degradation of the environment. That is a human rights issue which actually goes to the right to life. And so the persons who live in those villages whose means of livelihood are affected, their cocoa trees are destroyed, their cash crops are destroyed, the devastation that is ongoing to our water bodies, the inability of most of our Ghana Water Company to be able to give us drinking water, among others, makes this a pressing national issue.
The Member of Parliament also in the petition wants Shraj to investigate allegations of abuse of office made by the former Secretary of the Ministerial Committee, Charles Bissiu, against Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng over matters involving some 500 excavators that supposedly went missing around February 2020.
There's enough material for investigation. And coupled with that, Mr. Bissiu too has also issued a challenge. If you look at his was a statement on Ghana, captured in Ghana Web, but that's 15th March 2023, and he challenged Professor Frimpong Boateng over the issues of the 500 missing excavators, and actually made allegations that Professor Boateng himself was also involved in Galamsey. What we are not interested in the names. What we are interested in is we have a menace. There is illegal mining. The allegations cut across both ways. The allegations involve government officials, private persons, and all that. How do we stop this menace? How do we bring those who have devastated our environment to book? Clearly, the government is not interested. So we need to fall upon our independent agencies such as Shraj to do the work. Other arms of government are interested. Parliament has not responded. The executive says they are not interested. So we only have Shraj as our last bulwark. If they also fail us, then we are doomed. We will be importing water very soon.
Lawyer for Member of Parliament for South Dai, that's Roxy Nelson Dafiamikbo, says that he is interested in this particular matter, how it pans out in terms of its investigations, or the high-profile individuals who have been accused of engaging in illegal mining in the country will be investigated by the Commission of Human Rights and Administrative Justice. Reporting for City News, Akosia Ochre.
All right, so the NDC, which is the biggest opposition party, has also waded into the matter as to be expected. And now they want the Office of the Special Prosecutor and Parliament to institute a public inquiry into the report. And the party, in the media interaction on the matter, also urged Parliament to consider a bipartisan public probe as well. City News' Philip Nilate has more in the following report.
Addressing the media at the Moment of Truth series at the NDC headquarters, Communications Officer of the party, Sami Jemfi, said illegal mining, also known as Galamsey, was bound to flourish under the NPP government. He added that the Galamsey report released by the former Minister of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, Professor Frimpong Boateng, affirms that the Akufo-Addo government was not committed to fight Galamsey. The party called on the Special Prosecutor and Parliament to institute a public bipartisan inquiry into the report.
The only thing that can explain this scandalous revelation is that President Akufo-Addo is himself complicit in the illegal Galamsey menace. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen of the media, if there was any doubt that the so-called fight against illegal mining by the Akufo-Addo Bawumia MPP government has been a sham, then this is the clearest evidence yet again. The Frimpong Boateng report confirms one truth, that illegal mining activities have been a free-for-all enterprise for many in the Akufo-Addo Bawumia MPP administration. We are of the view that the only way to establish the truth and get to the bottom of the issues contained in the Professor Frimpong Boateng Galamsey report is for Parliament to institute a publicly televised and bipartisan inquiry into this report, which essentially is an obituary of President Akufo-Addo's monumentally failed fight against illegal mining. The special prosecutor on his part must act with alacrity by probing the Frimpong Boateng Galamsey report and prosecute all government officials, MPP functionaries, and persons who have perpetrated serious crimes against the state as contained in the report.
The NDC believes that it will be a step in the right direction if Parliament and the Office of the Special Prosecutor launch an immediate probe into the Professor Frimpong Boateng Galamsey report. Reporting for 16 years from the NDC headquarters, my name is Philip Latte.
All right, so that's the NDC's bit as well. Now, the Chebi Traditional Council has vehemently denied claims that Galamsey activities led to the destruction of the president's fence wall in Chebi. Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng in a report alleged that the Galamsey activities close to the president's Chebi residence affected portions of his garden, which had to be quickly put back in shape by the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining. But speaking to City News during a media tour of the president's Chebi residence, the Traditional Council said nothing of that sort happened. Here's a report.
This is Chebi in the eastern region. Behind me is the residence of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the President of the Republic. If you're familiar with the Professor Frimpong Boateng report, which was released some couple of weeks ago, there were some claims in this particular report that Galamsey had taken place in the residence of the President or around the residence of the President. Now, this has generated a lot of debate with regards to government's whole fight against illegal mining or Galamsey. Now, today we've come to Chebi to verify these claims by Professor Frimpong Boateng in this much talked about report. Professor Frimpong Boateng was the chairman of the defunct Anti-Galamsey Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining that had the main focus of fighting Galamsey. Now, he came out with this particular explosive report. So we've come out here in Chebi to verify some of the claims he made, especially as to whether Galamsey ever took place in the President House or within the President House. That led to the collapse of the President's wall and even Galamsey taking place in the President's garden. So we'll go into the house of the President, check these claims made by Professor Frimpong Boateng, and then verify from there. Whilst we do that, we'll get some residents within this particular area to speak to and find out from them if indeed such a thing ever happened in the official residence of the President. So this is the house of President Akufo-Addo in Chebi. It's quite a big compound. It's well fenced. The gardens are in here, summer huts and everything that has to do. So we just want to find out if indeed Galamsey ever took place in this house or around this house or within the garden of President Akufo-Addo. So the shots you're seeing now is the garden of the President, his house here in Chebi in the eastern region. I will try and speak to some few residents within this particular area to ever find out if indeed something ever took place. I live here.
No, I don't live here.
You don't live here.
I'm a constituency chairman.
Exactly. Okay. I'm sure you had these claims or this report of Professor Frimpong Boateng that Galamsey ever took place within the President House or around the President House. Or you are the constituency chairman in this area. Does such a thing ever take place?
You can see from afar. This palm tree is over 40 years here, and you can see a big trees here. You see a summer hut. It's over 20-30 years. We just shape it. We don't do anything. Galamsey is not doing here. We don't understand this. So I don't know what Frimpong Boateng mean about doing Galamsey in President House.
But when you heard it, what was your reaction?
It even baffles my mind about what Freeport Boateng means. So I don't know. I don't know who told Freeport Boateng about this thing. Unless if Freeport Boateng, I don't know if Freeport Boateng knows this house. If he knows this house, he couldn't have said that.
But Freeport Boateng, the report said he got a call from one Eric Entry. It was Eric Entry who called him that something like this was taking place within the president's periphery.
They didn't verify from Eric Entry that it's the house in Chebi or it's a house in Nima. I don't know whether gold has been appear in Nima residence. So I don't know. But you can see from your eye. There's no mining, there's no nothing here. So I don't know.
So for you, this particular report is not true.
It's, we should put it aside. The report is not true. It's a very lie.
So we have come to the backyard of the president's house, where Professor Freeport Boateng in his report says that Galamsey also took place at the backyard of the president. Now, behind me is the backyard of the president, filled with vegetation, palm trees, plantain trees and the likes. But there are no signs, so you can't see whether they've ever been digging or anything which has been done at this particular backyard. I will speak to a resident who lives.
All right, so that's the president's house in Chebi, and Freeport Boateng says that the garden at some point was affected. That was, I'm sure, before 2021, because the report was authored in 2021. They said they dealt with it swiftly when they heard that the youth organizer in the area was excavating in a field close to the president's house, and that the president's garden was affected. So the Chebi Traditional Council, well, the questions have been raised as to why it should be the Chebi Traditional Council taking journalists around and not a member of Akufo-Addo's family or something like that. What's the role of the Chebi Traditional Council in a private residence of somebody, incidentally the president? But of course, that has been done. That tour has happened, and as you saw, there was no indication of Galamsey activity as of yesterday or the day they went there, as of yesterday. But of course, the report was authored in 2021, and from the narration in the report, it meant that that event or that incident, if it happened at all, occurred before the report was authored, and I think that must be placed in context. So that is our major discussion today. However, just yesterday, the Economic Intelligence Unit issued a report, as it's been doing every year, and as it's been consistent also in its predictions. And it says that the NDC stood a strong chance of winning the 2024 elections. And it's cited in this analysis that the issues of the debt exchange program, unemployment, etc., could cause some incumbency disaffection that will drive or cause a wave for change. And so on that basis, it says the NDC was, more likely to win the 2024 election. Of course, the NDC has accepted or welcomed the report. And the MPP says that the context is different. The report must be placed in its proper context. There are global things affecting Ghana's economy. And anybody who reads that report should look at it with that global eye. Well, I don't know where you stand on that. But since I have politicians as my guest today, I'm sure that you want to hear what they have to say about that. This is not a major discussion, but we just take a comment or two from them, and then we make progress. So my guest today, Dr. Clement Apak, who is MP for Bosa South, the Honorable Fuseni Issa, former Member of Parliament, Okankwe North, former member of the Finance Committee of Parliament, and then Richard Kojo Elima, who is a natural resource governance analyst. These are my guests this morning. Gentlemen, you are welcome to the program.
Thank you, Solomon.
I started with you, Doc. The report, the EIU report, appears to say that your party stands a strong chance in winning the next election. How did the report come to you? In the past, the NDC has been critical about the EIU when they predicted that we were going to lose the 2016 election and even the 2020 election. You guys were quite critical. Now, consistent with what you said last year, it's saying that you are likely to win the next election. How do you receive it this time?
Solomon, first of all, let me say good morning to you and my good brother Husseini, who has hinted me on the
Tell me you miss me in Parliament Park.
that he is
Go on.
effort to return.
Go on, tell me.
He's on the scene. So I know he will weather the storm.
Park, tell me you miss me in
But
Parliament.
as to whether he is going to be capable of defeating
on.
my good sister Teresa Winnie,
Okay.
that I doubt.
Okay.
And let me say good morning to the people of Bulsa South and the Upper East region. Salam, it is only fair that I indicate that City and all your programs are numero uno as far as the people of Buluk, and that is a combination of Bulsa North and South are concerned.
Thank you.
So I know they are listening to me.
Thank you.
And in Buli, Bulsinamena, Mapusuamena Solu. Salam, this EIU report, yes, we can look at it and discuss it. But as you said earlier, we in the NDC have always questioned reports, whether they are in favor of us or not, for good reason. Because we believe that our success is going to be based on our hard work and the credible alternatives that we provide as far as the people of Ghana are concerned. And so if within that context, a report comes out that says that, yes, the very same issues that we have identified as very critical to the well-being of the people and are looking to help address are the issues that are going to drive the elections, then our own thinking and our positioning is in consonance with what the report says. But we are not going to prioritize what the report says versus the work that we need to do to ensure that we are successful. I saw the report, and I know that you did a story on it on Eyewitness News yesterday. I would say that, yes, we would use it as a guide because, I mean, victory is not just going to be handed to us. We have to fight for it. We have to demonstrate to the good people of Ghana why we are a better alternative. And we have to demonstrate that by letting them know what we will do differently, and also pointing out the colossal failure of the current NPP government. So obviously, the report talks about the DDEP, the economic challenges, and all the other challenges that we know. And so we wouldn't give too much premium to the report, but what we are going to do is to intensify our effort and our work, because nothing comes free. You must put in the maximum effort to expect the maximum return. If we just say that because the EIU has said that,
And that
we are
maximum,
just going to sit back.
that maximum effort for maximum return, doesn't it include your candidate? The report last year said you may want to revitalize your prospects by changing your candidate.
Well,
and it's made allusions to that this year.
That is their rendition. We don't believe that. And we don't believe that because we know the candidates we expect
Somebody who's
to
failed twice
emerge
at it.
as the flag bearer is viable, is credible, has what it takes. And particularly in the current scheme of things, Ghanaians are not looking to try. Matra Makwe is the reason why we are where we are.
But he came, he didn't
wanted
deliver,
a
so they
tested
sacked him.
hand. No. They didn't sack him. He lost an election.
Okay.
But they have now carried water and they have carried alcohol. And they know the difference. If for nothing at all, the current conditions were not the same under him.
I see.
The man that was called names, and as you said earlier, supposedly soiled. Soiled by who? He was soiled by lies. He was soiled with propaganda. He was soiled with vitriolic hatred. Most of the things that he was accused of today, time has exposed them to be lies and falsehood.
I see.
So, in fact, if for nothing at all, I would argue that President John Dramani Mahama today is more attractive to the people of Ghana on the basis of how reckless and the levels of mismanagement and corruption And in fact, blatant disregard for laid down rules and processes and procedures by this government, including Galamsey. And we are going to talk about that.
Yes.
I would say John Mahama is more attractive today than he was in 2016.
Very well.
Largely because of the record of the Akufo-Addo Bawumia-led NPP government.
Very well. Let me talk to Honorable Issa. Issa, the report doesn't appear very friendly to you. What's your take on it quickly?
Good morning, Salome, and good morning to Chief Apak. And good morning to your listeners and your viewers. I have to remember the good people of Fukankwe North as well.
I thought you were forgetting about them.
I shouldn't, because I'm ever grateful for the opportunity they gave me in the past.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to another opportunity to represent them in Parliament, come the 9th Parliament. Salom, EIU has been consistent in the last couple of elections. Their predictions and their reports have actually had far-reaching outcomes when it came to elections in Ghana. It is one report that is, I think that incumbent governments around the world are not too popular given where the global economy is. I mean, no incumbent government now expects to be popular to easily win elections. I mean, things will have to happen for incumbent governments to be able to retain power. Thankfully, in our context, they say elections are won even before the elections come up. But we have at least 18, 20 months to elections. And we know that we've been through some quite challenging times. I'm saying this because in the report, I have not gotten the opportunity to read the report. I haven't though, but they had mentioned particularly the debt exchange program that we have just gone through. And it projects that it may cause some incumbency disaffection for the new government of the New Patriotic Party. I mean, that's real. That should be expected. But on the reverse, when we start having the positives, when we start reaping the benefits of the bitter exercise that we have gone through, I am sure that Ghanaians will be the first to attest to the fact that this was us taking chloroquine to be able to resolve the malaria that we had. It's been a case where our system has been running certain structures, and until we break that vicious cycle, until we break those structures, we cannot make a headway. So it takes a government that is ready to look into the future of the nation, to be able to take hard and far-reaching decisions, like the debt exchange program. I'm looking forward to us concluding those negotiations with the IMF. I'm looking as to having those BOP issues resolved when we have finished with the IMF. And I believe that we are going to reap the benefits of the bitter exercise that we have gone through. I don't know how the EIU had inculcated all that into their report. I have had a casual look at the report, not an in-depth. But for us, we are going to take it as they have presented. We are going to take lessons from it. Where we think that we are falling short, we are going to work harder. And I believe that Ghanaians will attest to the fact that a government under the party, New Patriotic Party, is always much, much better. I heard my senior brother, I seen their candidates and all of that. In the past, the EIU had said something about their candidature and the candidature of JDM. And JDM is no stranger to us. I don't know whether he's been baptized and he's now a new being or he's coming with a new heart, but we know him. We know what he's capable. He's had the opportunity to be at the helm of affairs in this country.
They call him the nation builder.
Since when?
No, that's how Apak and Co call him.
Since when? That's why I asked since when. Maybe there is some cut-off.
2016 and all the things.
Maybe 2016 and all the things.
Prior to 2016, all the things.
In 2015, in 2016, 2014, if you were a Ghanaian living in Ghana, I don't think you will ever refer to President John Dramani Mahama as a nation builder. This is a man who got us at the drum song for 3-4 years. This is a man who brought the economy to its knees, even when there were no global challenges like we've had to contend with. whether or not he solved Dumsor.
But he didn't cause Dumsor. Did he cause Dumsor?
Oh, we went through Dumsor
Mm.
under the presidency of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama for 3-4 years. Companies were closing down. Seamstresses in Akwetema had to close down.
Very well.
Some had to work through the night. How can this be a nation builder?
Very well.
This is a candidate that we are contesting against. And I mean, everybody thinks that he's a presumptive candidate of the NDC. Everybody thinks so. Fine. He is. I am very happy to have elections
you know him,
against
you know how to beat
Oh,
him,
we know
so
him.
there's no problem.
Oh,
Very
we
well.
know him.
Very well.
We know him,
Very
pa.
well.
We know
Very
him,
well.
pa. And you see, Apak, don't be with the 2012 elections, because we all went to court and we saw what happened in 2012. What
Very
happened
well.
at the
No
polls.
problem. We just don't
Sell up.
time.
You recollect that in 2012 there were 2 days of voting.
Yes.
We recollect all. We know him.
Very well.
We know him.
So that's it. Now, Galamsey.
Just like I know apart from Domo.
Very well. But you were not in call, were you?
I wasn't.
Okay, very
How
well.
could I?
Okay,
I mean,
no,
I
no.
was in a better hall.
No problem.
The gentleman's hall.
I see.
The hall that has produced more presidents than any other hall in Ghana.
Which is?
Legon Hall.
Very well. So now let's see.
We have produced
Professor Mills and
we have produced another Dr.
very well.
How many presidents have come on?
Now,
We have
Galamsey.
produced more presidents.
Galamsey, I started with you, Isa. What is the scorecard on Galamsey? You will say the Galamsey fight. If you were to be in an exam hall and they asked you what the scorecard on the president's fight against Galamsey is, what would be your answer? What would you say to that?
I think that Galamsey or illegal mining, as we have come to know, it's a multifaceted problem that we have had to deal with as a people, as an economy, as a nation. I think that it is such a complicated issue that we will have to do more to be able to actually bring this menace to some appreciable levels. But I think that the government led by the president is still very committed. But the nature of this menace is actually making it quite difficult. Looking at the report that the good old professor produced, you see, reports are produced at different levels, and I think that per the release from the presidency, I totally agree, because you see, when there are official reports, there are ways in which very official reports are written, and you hardly will see personal issues like mentioning of specific names, allegations, as contained in the professor's report. Relative to a report that was meant for a body like cabinet, because look, the interministerial committee was actually a creation of cabinet. So I would have expected that at some point, the professor who was put at the helm of affairs would have produced a report directed to cabinet in the way that we prepare cabinet reports, with a transmittal letter, everything addressed to either the president or to the cabinet. But you see, this whole report looks like a very informal report, a report between something to bring, if it actually exists, it's something to bring the chief of staff to some appreciable level on the challenges that the professor was facing as the chairman of the interministerial committee. So that's how come it contained personal issues, allegations that probably could have given the chief of staff a head start to look at certain specific sectors or issues or challenges that the committee was facing.
But they should look at that. I mean,
they should look at that. That is also
assuming, without admitting that, you know, the report maybe did not meet the typical style, if I should say, how such reports should be. Maybe the prof didn't do it that way.
Because
but
of what is
yes, but would that invalidate the content of the report? Isn't it a situation of putting form before substance?
Then again, if it wasn't meant for cabinet, if it wasn't meant to the president, if it wasn't official, it also was a way. I mean, all appointees report to the chief of staff or report to the president.
So why would they report to the chief of staff? For action, is that not it?
For action.
Yes.
And if it's action internally, you and I, we're not too sure about what the chief of staff has since done about the report.
No, because the people have said
whether
nobody has called them.
the people, perhaps she did conduct investigations, and perhaps she did conduct investigations and didn't think that these allegations are typically.
So
it's
you
what we
think
are
if-
hearing about the house in Chebi.
Yeah, so you think if
I
she had-
have been fortunate. I have been to that house before.
No,
I mean, in the
we'll
past.
deal with the house.
Yeah.
But you think if she had conducted investigations on her own, even formally or informally, and why would she do a personal investigation when there are agencies of state that would be official, could be officially?
I mean, the office of the chief of staff is a very powerful one. It's the office that all appointees report to. So the information at her disposal, it's probably very different from what you and I will know. She probably is aware what is happening. She has a whole system to assist her in her work, and all of that.
That there were conflicts
So-
even at the committee level and all of that. And she
Conflict-
decided to
conflict
to
in
keep it.
committees. I mean, this is a
That is
term-
affecting the fight, the national fight.
This is a committee that was made up of at least 10 ministries. And for you not to expect to have some conflict in there, I don't know.
No, but if
you
the
expect that
if
there's
the
going to be some conflict
if
in
the
there.
conflict will be destructive to the overall objective, then that's counterproductive. So
I don't know. I don't know about that because look.
No, because the
since
report is clear.
this report became public, I've heard some very senior ministers who were supposed to be part of this interministerial committee who never saw this report.
Yes,
They never saw this report,
because
and they are
they
not aware of it.
You are not attending meetings.
It is not a case, you see, when in governance, when you have such committees, because it's a whole ministry that's represented, you probably might not even have the minister himself, but the minister may appoint somebody from the ministry who is at the operational level to be involved in this. So it is not a case of the ministers not attending the meeting.
So we don't even
Any
know.
report coming from,
that's a good point.
Any report coming from such a committee, you expect that it is a collective one.
Yes.
At least the other members of the committee should be given the opportunity to see the content and maybe raise issues. Who knows? The Minister of Defense might know something that the Minister for Science and Innovation, Environment might not, be aware of. So these are issues. But you see, in all of this, a report is on the table. I've heard the NDC version of the report, because I don't think it's consistent with what the report actually contains. Because it's all one-sided. But you see, it is also one thing that we have to move away from. The extent to and the effects that illegal mining or galamsey is having on this country, I think that we've gotten to a point where we have to take the politics out of it and face it headlong as a people. If we continue to politicize it, who is more involved in this, who is doing galamsey more, who is who, and people are looked at through political lenses, it's going to be a much more difficult fight for us to succeed in. I think that the NDC's attitude to this thing is not what I will support at all. I think that we should come to a table as a people. We should actually be able to identify the culprits and bring them to book, and not allow people to be saying, in this region, and this member of parliament or this party person, or I think that we have to move away from it and identify the culprits.
The basis for all those commentaries is the report authored by the chairman.
Yes, but
However,
the
you see
report itself,
report.
the report itself is political neutral because there's accusation in both ways.
Yes.
There's accusation both ways.
Very good point.
So for one party to actually close an eye on one bit of it,
yes, it's
and
because
highlight the one bit,
because
it
there
is
was
not the right
inaction.
thing to go.
You have the mandate, you have the power.
I
and
don't.
that power
Salom,
is executive in nature.
Is when you
the
say there is
police and
inaction.
When there's inaction, investigative agencies.
When you say there is inaction,
are within your command, are in your care.
When you say there is
issue
inaction,
instructions for whatever to be investigated. So, for example, they said some NDC people did it. I thought it was just an attempt to equalize. No names, for example. I didn't really see any name in there.
Yeah, but there were descriptions that you could point out
very
personalities.
Well. What did you do about that? Your job was to book everybody. So now you've not been able to even bring to book the opposition elements who were equally distracting or causing distraction to the environment, you couldn't. Your own people, you couldn't. So what was this, the point then? Why then do we say the president's commitment to the fight is unassailable? When the power you've been given, you've not been able to deploy it to bring people to book, your own people and people on the other side, even though they are all Ghanaians. Nothing really has happened. So
it's also
people
a very
question the relevance really and the resources expended on this committee.
It is also not too accurate for you to say that nothing has been done in the fight against Galamsey or illegal mining. There's been quite a bit done. I mean, government has done quite a bit to be able to fight this menace. But you see, it is such a difficult thing. Like, not too long ago, we sat in this studio. There was a case where a chief in a community was mining in his own room. I mean, how do you do this without the help of the community? The government itself has established community mining schemes, operation manuals, and all of that. But it looks like there's a disconnect because the people in those areas say it otherwise. I mean, they are the first people who are affected by the negatives of illegal mining. But if they are seeing it as a source of income or some sort of it is also very difficult to fight. So it's something that we have to look at as a collective and be able to be apolitical when it comes to the discussion of illegal mining.
I see.
Else it's going to be something that is going to be with us, and we all have to bear with the repercussions.
Just to backtrack a bit, a report submitted to Chief of Staff, maybe she did her own investigations and saw there was no merit, but part of doing her own investigations include the fact that the one who made the allegation called the other guy he's mentioned, and let's trust things out. You don't leave out the one who made the allegation, go and find out something and say, okay, based on what I found out, I'll leave it. Nobody has been called. From what I said, no action has been taken since. And for taxpayers, that is disheartening because we know that a lot of resources has been expended. And even from quite apart from the issue of being a taxpayer, the environment, the PRA, the Birim, all those water bodies have been polluted to the extent that the people in those communities can no longer depend on those. They cannot depend on those for drinking, for cooking, for even irrigation. And that is a difficulty. Ghana Water says that in the next few years, we will have to start importing water. Now, they spend colossal amount of money on purifying water because of the pollution caused them. So it is a major issue for which government, rightly so, devoted time, resources, and even a lot of things to. Given such a report, you don't even bring it to the attention of the president. If it was, we would have known. And had it not been that the report leaked, we wouldn't have even known that anything like this existed. Yes, Frimpong Boateng, we could have done that. Maybe he didn't do all of those. But do we discount the report and its content because he was supposed to have done ABC, didn't do them? That is the difficulty that government is not seeing.
I don't think that anybody is discounting the contents of the report. But you see, in governance, and Dr. Apaku has said to that, you see, when a document should come to Parliament, there's a way, there's a process that it should before it comes to attention.
So it's form over substance.
It is not form over substance. I think that substance, when it comes to this very all-important illegal mining thing and its devastating effect on our very existence, it's very important. I'm not looking at form over substance. But you see, there are ways that this thing should be done. Okay. This is not the first time the professor is being appointed a minister. I recollect he served in Kufuor's government, right? And so
he was at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, and he wanted to be president. He ran,
in 2000,
but he wasn't a minister.
That's right. He wasn't. But I mean, there are ways in which this.
Well, he knows how to submit formal reports.
If this had been brought to the attention of the chief of staff properly, and for me, I'm still struggling whether this report, I don't know, per what we have seen, per what is in circulation, there was no addressee to it. I really don't know
but
the point at which it leaked.
Somebody upon request.
It was handed to somebody upon request. That's what we are hearing. But was it actually handed to somebody upon request?
No, but the chief of staff said it was given to her at an informal meeting. It was given to her.
Given to her at an informal meeting. I mean, these things happen to us. Even for members of parliament. So Dr. Apaku will assist to them. People meet you, they give you all sort of reports as to the action. But you see, when it is the form in which these reports come, I mean, if this report had been submitted with a transmittal letter to cabinet and in the formal process, I am sure that the attention that it would have gained would probably have been a different level from this one. This could have been, oh, okay, Prof, so what's happening in your sector? Can you bring me up to speed on where you are? It is a very different thing from the professor actually going for it to say, in the past 2 years that I've been appointed, in the past 3 years that we have been at the fight against Galamsey, this has been our challenges. And don't forget, the report also has, and it recommends even the way forward. The way forward in the fight against Galamsey. So it's also a forward-looking document. It is a process.
The more reason why the chief of staff should look at it. So
it's a process that should actually would have fed into the whole process of fighting.
Let's hear the presidency, the press release from the presidency. The document was handed to the chief of staff at the office of the president on 19th March 2021 in an informal meeting where Frimpong Boateng, the professor, complained about public attacks and criticisms made about his tenure as chairperson of the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining. So that's
I don't think anybody's doubting
it.
it.
Great.
Yeah.
So, Honorable Apak, I mean, I'll take a break, but just for you to have a first bite.
Well,
yes, you've seen the report.
I've seen the report. I've read it. I've read responses. And I must say that looking at the caliber, the status, the gravitas of the author of the report, anyone who seeks to rubbish it and to question his motives clearly is fighting against the tide. There is no Ghanaian fair-minded who will read this report and not agree with the content and not agree that if for nothing at all, Professor Frimpong Boateng has done his best in trying to draw attention to what is militating against the fight against illegal mining. And rather than giving the report the needed attention that it ought to receive, it was rather put under a pile of documents. And as you said earlier, if not because Ghanaians were fortunate enough that somebody who perhaps became nauseated, becoming aware of this report and the fact that there was no action, found a way to let it come to the public domain, we would not have known. And if you look at the title of the report, it's very clear. I'm surprised that it is not being read. It says, purpose. This report was prepared following an order from the Chief of Staff. I was instructed to present a brief report to the presidency about the progress made in the fight against illegality in the small-scale mining sector, and also to suggest a way forward in the effort to contain the illegality. I don't know of a particular format that a report is supposed to take. I've also worked at the presidency. I've worked under the Chief of Staff and the president. In fact, oral reports are admissible. Oral reports are admissible. So there is no standard of preparing a report. What is important is the subject matter and the content that is provided. If that content is actionable, you expect the recipient of the report to give it that effect.
You don't agree that for a report of a committee which had about 10 ministers of state, cabinet ministers for that matter, in it, a report on that committee's work should have been circulated amongst the members of the committee for their input. You don't agree to that?
I disagree. You can see the man has stated very clearly. Professor Frimpong Boateng is not some street side serial caller. I mean, he was a man of personal and academic achievements before he entered into politics. Those of us who are academics, I'm not even a professor yet.
Yes.
We all know what it takes to become a professor. The number of peer-reviewed articles that you have to author. He has done all of that. He knows what he is about. That is why he has given the heading. Okay. And if you read the heading, it is very clear.
So we stop at the heading for now. We'll come back to the heading, so we'll deal with that. We'll take a short break. This is the big issue on 97.3 City FM. We are looking at the matter of the Galamsey, Frimpong Boateng's Galamsey report, matters arising, the presidency's response, and other people who have responded. The Chebi Traditional Council took journalists around the residence of the president in Chebi to say that nothing, as alluded to in the report, alleged in the report, happened. So we'll take a short break, we'll return, and Dr. Park, who is on the floor, will continue from the title of the report. This is the big issue, don't go away. Hey, welcome back to the big issue. We are live on 97.3 City FM. We're also live on YouTube, on CityTube, and of course on City TV. This morning we are discussing two key issues: the fight against Galamsey, fallout from Professor Frimpong Boateng's report. The presidency has replied or has responded to that report, and the presidency says that the report was not formally presented. It was informally presented to the chief of staff at a meeting on 19th of March 2021, and it provided no strong basis for some of the allegations in the report to be investigated. But the question is, how else or should the report be formally presented before serious matters and names, as have been mentioned in the report, be investigated? Is it not an issue, a matter of putting form over substance? Is that really what matters? That is a question. Or in governance, things must be done formally. So no matter how important the subject is, once it is not brought to the attention of the powers that be officially, we will sit aloof and say, because it has not been brought officially, we will not act on it. Is that a discussion? That's the matter we are looking at. We will also look at the matter of the school feeding program. The caterers are on strike. They've laid down their tools. They said they've not been paid for about a year. And they also want the feeding cost per child per day increase from about 95 pesos to 3 cedis. A child is fed with 95 pesos, not up to 1 cedi per day. That is one hot meal. Of course, we know about the economies of scale because there are many. The money will reduce and all of that. So, but they are saying that given the cost, the high cost of living and everything, the 95 pesos should be increased to 3 cedis per child per day per meal. And government, we are not sure what they are saying. Government says they will work on that. But in the view of the caterers, it has taken quite a bit of time. And so they have laid down their tools. So as we speak, the children do not or no longer take the one hot meal per child a day as stipulated in the policy. The essence of the policy is to ensure that we increase enrollment at the basic school level and retain the number of children in school. That is critical. I think that was goal 1 or 2 or 3 of the Millennium Development Goals, and it's found its way in an iterated form in the SDGs. Very, very, very important thing. All right, so that's what we'll be looking at a bit later. We'll be talking to some of the caterers, etc. But for now, my guest, Dr. Clement Park, MP for Bosa South, Honorable Inusa Fuseni, former MP Okankwe South.
Sorry.
Honorable Fuseni Isa, Honorable Fuseni Isa, former MP of Okankwe North. Former Honorable Inusa, Honorable Isa, I beg your pardon, Honorable Isa Fuseni, former MP of Okankwe North, and he wants to go back to Parliament. And then Richard Kojo Elima, Natural Resources governance analyst. These are my guests looking at the Galamsey report. And Dr. Park was on the floor, and as academics do, he says, he was looking at the title of the report and saying that given this title, nobody can say that this report was informally submitted. So, Dr. Park, you were making a point.
Now, let's get to the crux of the matter.
Mm-hmm. But no, I'm still interested in the title and the purpose.
Oh, yes.
They said the report was presented following an order from the Chief of Staff. Said I was instructed to present a brief report to the presidency about the progress made in the fight against illegality in the small-scale mining sector, and also suggest a way forward in the efforts to contain illegality. Yes. If it says I was instructed, I in his capacity as who? As a person or as chairman of the committee?
You must remember that at this time, that he did the report and presented, he was no longer the chair of the
committee. Didn't exist anymore.
It didn't exist.
So in his capacity as a former chair.
That is why he says I was instructed.
Okay.
So the context is proper.
Okay.
If you were still the chair of the IMCIM, then he would have uttered it in his capacity as a chair of that committee.
But you don't find it curious that such a big committee, we do not have an official report as of date?
That is a matter for another day. What we know is what is upon us, and that is what we need to discuss.
Okay.
And this raises a myriad of questions. I think the questions that this document raises, we would find many ways of trying to answer them, but some of them we can still not get answers. But you see, I was going to go back to your initial question posed to my good brother, Fuseni.
It's better to say Fuseni. Yes, no, it's better to say Fuseni. That one you'll be safe.
You asked him to give his grading, I'm just paraphrasing you, of the fight against Galamsey. He danced around for good reason, because, in fact, he cannot give an honest response.
He said the president or the government was still committed.
How is that possible? You see, we have long known that one of the reasons why the fight against illegal mining was not succeeding in spite of the amount of public resources committed. I mean, people are not aware, but serious public resources have been committed to the fight. One of the reasons why we have not seen progress in terms of the visible and practical evidence of success, which will be reflected in the turbidity levels of our water bodies. Even the mere look of the water and the protection of our forests. The reasons why we have not seen that practical evidence is a clear testimony to the fact that the fight has failed. Look, there is no fight against illegal mining. It doesn't exist. It has been a hoax. We have argued, and we continue to argue, that what Akufo-Addo and the Barnier-led NPP government did was to simply dislodge the traditional small-scale illegal miners and then reassign those concessions and places to their party people, their friends and family. And now, from Frimpong Boaten's report, people even in government. That is what has happened. There was never any fight. And that is why
we saw Operation Vanguard. We saw all of that.
All of those things. But why? We've also seen, at the same time, the fact that the situation has gotten worse and worse and worse. Tell me one river body whose water has improved between 2016 and today as we speak. Tell me a forest that is surviving the onslaught. Frimpong Boaten has said it very clearly. That Sir John was the most dangerous person as far as Ghana's forest was concerned. At the time when we were supposed to have a ban on illegal mining, he had issued 47 permits to mining companies to mine in forest reserves. And he has indicated that this was even brought to the attention of the presidency. Yet no action was taken. What does that tell you? So what we are saying is that we are not surprised at all. The content of this report is only affirming what we have long known, that the beneficiaries of this illegal small-scale mining, which is polluting our water bodies and destroying our forests, are the very same people that the Ghanaian taxpayers are paying to protect their water bodies and to protect their environment. It is as simple as that. Don't you remember the former Minister for Local Government, now Ghana's ambassador to the United States, Haji Alima? In an orientation program, interaction with MMDCs, she said it, that some were engaged in illegal mining. Have you forgotten when the current Minister for Environment, what do you call it, Forestry and Natural Resources, Abu Jinapor, when they went to the Ashanti region to hold an event, and the Otunfo was to speak. The Otunfo said that, it is obvious. So what this report has done is to bring it to bear. And look at the type of names.
Yes, but so talk about type of names.
Is mentioning.
Look at which page is this? Page 13. It says that there are appointees in the Jubilee House that are doing or supporting illegal mining or interfering with the fight against the menace. Examples are Lord Kome, Charles Niteku, and Frank Asiedu Bequin, also known as Protozoa.
That's correct.
If you say a thing like this, how does somebody start tackling the problem? This is vague.
But you see,
it's very vague. No specifics.
This is precisely why the NDC is calling for a probe.
So you admit that the report in many respects has not been specific, and so there's very little somebody can do to bring the people to book.
The report has a basis to be investigated. The entities that received this report chose not to give it any attention. Now it has become public. And so we now have to look at entities that are independent of the recipients of this report.
Hence your call for the OSP and all of that. And one of your colleagues is taking the matter to Strategy.
That is correct. And that is what we ought to do. Because you cannot ask the same people who have been indicted, because this report implicitly indicts Akufo-Addo. Implicitly. Because if you are the head of government and it is the president who occupies the presidency, every other person in the presidency is there at the behest of the president. And that is why those who are there supporting the president to execute his mandate as a president are called presidential staffers. In fact, including the chief of staff. People are not aware. But technically, the chief of staff is a presidential staffer, because without the president being there,
she heads all the staff
and appointing you, you don't exist.
That's true.
So if this report then indicates that senior members of government, including presidential staffers, persons in charge of operations, the very same person who has supervisory authority over the staffers and even ministers, was given this report, and the aid to the chief of staff has been mentioned specifically as one of the obstructions in terms of the effort to fight this, it indicts all of them, including the president, because without the president, there wouldn't be a presidential staff.
I see.
And so what we are saying is that this report merits a thorough investigation. Good for us and good for Ghanaians. Professor Frimpong Boateng is alive and well. He's healthy. I know that if he's invited to appear before a commission of inquiry, to appear before the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice, or to appear before a parliamentary committee, he will be more than willing to make himself available.
But is it not enough that CID is looking at this already? And Strategy is also looking at it. You don't trust CID anymore?
Under this Akufo-Addo Bawumia MPP regime. When was the last time?
But that's such a big comment to make.
Let's not miss words. The CID, as is the case of many public agencies and institutions in this country, have been compromised.
Really?
Yes.
And what's your basis for saying that?
Is it not obvious?
That you are falling into the same trap Bob is falling into.
Have we not all seen issues that have come up, have been referred to the CID, and we have not had any feedback?
Issues
and
like what?
Even when they have been referred, the president takes the lead to come and clear. Why didn't we see the number 12 expose.
What has been is it not in court?
What has been the verdict of the CID?
But the matter has been.
Didn't we see the other documentary with regards to Galamsey?
And it was referred to the CID.
Where is the report on that?
It was referred to the CID, and the CID hasn't acted.
Where is the report on that?
No, I'm not sure if it was referred to the CID. But
it was.
Yes, very well. And the CID hasn't acted.
It was reported.
I see.
What I'm simply saying is that we don't trust the CID because the CID is compromised. The CID is not independent. The CID is not serving Ghana.
But is it not bastardizing state agencies? If you say so, you weaken confidence in those state agencies by commentaries.
I am not saying the Ghanaians are fully aware. It behoves on those state agencies to act in a way that will let the people know.
Very well. Let me bring in a natural resource. Let me bring in a natural resource governance analyst.
You see, on the same page 13, the good old professor alludes to the fact that the NDC itself,
people were there.
So you see, that is why I started on the point.
So you mentioned that in the Wasa East district, the former NDC deputy minister, who is also MP for Wasa East, has been actively managing the
for years.
Yeah, but what was his job?
And he goes on to say that they have used these resources politically by even funding.
Yeah. So what was his job? Did he recommend the arrest and prosecution or investigation of this gentleman? He didn't. So he didn't help us.
He is reporting
to the chief of staff. The main reason why chief of staff should have taken action on this report. But let me go to the governance resource person. Richard Kojuelima, thanks so much for joining us. I know you have seen this report, and from a natural resource governance viewpoint, in a few minutes, what's your general view on this report and the responses that have come from the presidency and some of the people who have been mentioned in this so far?
Thank you very much. And, let me say good morning to your listeners, particularly listeners in the Lembele district and Obuasi in Ashanti region. Yeah, before I start, let me put a line from my former school's anthem, Accra Academy. A line that says, let's stop chasing the shadows and deal with the substance. I think, broadly speaking, that is how the report by Professor Frimpong Boateng has been treated. A lot of the discussion has centered on the shadows instead of the substance. So I will talk about just about 3 or 4 key issues, and then we'll continue from there. The first one that is obvious is the capture of the fight against Galamsey by the political class for their own benefit. And I make this comment because it is something that is very common if you come to mining communities where, I live in Obuasi and I hear a lot of things, I see a lot of things. If you go to a typical Galamsey site, you hear stories about political people who own mining sites. And they say that with all, with all the confidence that they have and back it with evidence as well. So to us, it is not too shocking. Look, there's a very good reason why small-scale mining was reserved for Ghanaians under the law. It is supposed to support the livelihood of communities. But increasingly, we are seeing politically connected people, police commanders, army chiefs, traditional rulers, and so on, who have taken over small-scale mining, not in a legal sense of going to get a license to operate, but then who are mining illegally. And that has become a source of worry. So Professor Frimpong Boateng's report is only consistent with what some of us have known all along. Now, the second thing that stands out from the report in terms of the governance angle is the discrepancy between a supposedly genuine desire by the president to fight Galamsey, preserve the environment, and so on, and the expectations of his own appointees. It takes the appointees to make the president's fight successful. But you realize that the actions of his appointees are in direct contravention. It's clearly, a contradiction from what the president himself stands for. And that is also a key source of worry. The president goes around making speeches, putting his presidency on the line, in the fight against Galamsey and so on. But his appointees are undermining him.
But do you have the sense that just to deal on that point, deal with you on that point? Do you have the sense that the president is aware that some of his appointees are going contrary to his vision, objective, or direction on the fight against Galamsey? If not, then that is a problem because, like you said, when you go on the ground, you hear a lot of these things that these politicians, these people are involved, and so he should, because the president has more resources in terms of gathering information on the ground than you have, and even in the limited scope of your resources, you are even able to hear from the people that such big names are involved. So will you say that the president is not aware, or the president is aware but is unable to take action? Where do we draw this line?
I will be very surprised, very, very, very surprised if the president does not know what is going on.
So that answers the question really.
If indeed the president is not aware of what is going on, then there's a problem with the national security apparatus. Because in every mining community, in every Galamsey community, we have national security operatives swarming over the place. And they really know what is going on. And I speak from a point of knowledge that they know what is going on. It's possible the president knows, but for some reason he's refusing to act. Now, if you go back to the Frimpong Boateng report, it's evidently clear that the professor mentions instances where he has informed the president about the involvement of some of his own appointees in Galamsey. Then the president promises that, I'll look into it. I'll do this. I'll do that. But nothing happens. At least if you take the duration of the report from 2021 till 2023, we haven't seen any major shakeup. We haven't seen any major inquiry going on that will really delve deeper into what really is the problem. That leads to the conclusion that probably he knows, but he's not acting on it. As to why he's not acting on it, probably we can have another discussion on it. The other point too is that there's a lot of confusion over the fight against Galamsey. Some of us have raised the issue about the approach to fighting Galamsey. In one breath, we have the military coming in and Operation Vanguard. They come in, they go to the sites, they flash out people. And some of us have raised questions about the sustainability of this exercise. And then we have many setups that are supposed to be dealing with Galamsey. We have the Minerals Commission fighting Galamsey. We have the Interministerial Committee that has its own setup fighting Galamsey. We had other agencies also fighting Galamsey. So in the face of all these agencies fighting Galamsey, the British said that too much cooks spoil the broth. No. So what eventually happens is that there are cracks and people take advantage of these things. And you come down, there are reports that some MMDCs involved in Galamsey. Now, MMDCs are the heads of the various security agents, the district and municipal security agencies in their areas. So if you have these persons getting involved in Galamsey, how can the fight against Galamsey succeed? That is why we say that if we want to succeed, hold these MMDCs responsible. For every MMDC that we find Galamsey in their district or municipality or whatever it is, let them be held responsible. Let them be held accountable. If we go along that route, I'm sure we will be able to fight this whole menace of Galamsey. Now, could things have been different? Yes, absolutely. If the president had acted on the information from this report that we are reading, I am sure things would have been much different. And I say this because I go back to the point I made earlier on. There are indications in the report that the president reported Sejong, especially with regards to giving out forest reserves for as timber concessions. The president Professor Boateng reported Gabi Asare was support for an illegal mining operator, etc. These are all allegations, all right. But how do we know these are true? Unless the president had acted and investigated and then cleared these people, then we would have been clear in our minds that yes, these people are innocent. But as things stand now, nothing was done. No action was taken. So it presents a bit of a problem for us. So overall, in terms of governance of the fight and so on, I think we have failed woefully. We have totally failed. And if we are talking about whether we have succeeded or not, let's go back to the river bodies that were used as the indicator for the fight against Galamsey. Are the river bodies better now than they were in 2017? Are our forests better now than they were in 2017? Are miners mining responsibly now than they did in 2017? These are critical questions that we need to ask and then conclude whether we have succeeded or failed in the fight against Galamsey.
I see. Very interesting points you raised. But talking about the MMDCs, do you have the sense that they've been given enough power or authority to deal with the problem? It's one thing being put there as a DC or MCE. It's another thing being clothed with the power properly so-called, flowing from the political will from the top. So you are able to discharge your duties properly, bring to book all those involved in the menace. Do you have the sense that the DCs had that real power to act?
To the extent that DCs are chairmen and chairpersons of the district security councils, they wield some power. And to the extent that if you look at the fight against Galamsey, there was that security angle to it. And Operation Vanguard will not go into any community without liaising with the district security council. That is what I know about the structure against the fight. So every DCE in any mining community is aware whenever any operation, any security operation is taking place. So they have that power. Secondly, as chairman of the district mining committees, they are clothed with enough power, at least to point out areas where illegal mining is taking place and allow the necessary legal processes to take place. So far, I am yet to hear of any DCE who has gone to the field, arrested people with the help of the security agencies and had them prosecuted. That is one. The second thing too is, it is also possible that because the fight against Galamsey was centralized at the IMCIM head office in Accra, they did all the operational stuff and then communicated to the DCs. It is possible the DCs, though they are aware, but might not be so powerful because they always have to rely on instructions from the IMCIM. So these are all possibilities. But by and large, DCs have a lot of power, at least, if nothing at all, a lot of power to raise the alarm and to bring the attention of the nation to the devastation that Galamsey is causing in their areas. If they are not talking, if they are not raising issues, then of course we can conclude they are also culpable.
But I see.
I actually disagree with him because the DCs are appointees. There is a command structure. Now, if you look at the caliber of persons that Professor Frimpong Boateng has mentioned, do you truly believe that a DCE can rise up to challenge any illegal mining going on in your jurisdiction when a call is coming from the Director of Operations, from the presidency, or the senior minister, or the president's cousin that we all call the de facto prime minister? So yes, they are there, but they are only there and they can only perform in as far as the bigger authority supports them. But when it is the bigger authority or persons who are closer to the president who are facilitating this illegality, the DCE clearly stands no chance
Dr.
of
Park.
doing the things that
Dr.
you know
Park.
we would all expect.
Very well.
Dr. Park,
Let's-
the reports this far.
Issa will come
from
in.
the onset, we have said that this whole fight, the president claiming to put his presidency on the line, look, it is fraudulent. It is fake.
These are very strong words.
They have never been a fight
Yes.
against Galamsey.
Yes.
At one point, Ghana Water had come out to support or
fight.
give evidence that we had made improvements in there. Where we lacked, I'm not too sure. Then also, this report, so far, we are discussing what the good old professor had put in his report. We shouldn't
the
really
reaction from
take
the
it as a gospel truth. I mean, for you to say that those personalities mentioned within the report are facilitating, I think that you are going beyond.
No,
more
that's
so,
the allegation.
More so,
And
when
those who are
some of
minded
them
to-
have decided to go to court.
Yes, so they are in
To
court.
go to court.
Yes, so
When
that's
those
noted.
issues, so you shouldn't actually conclude on those issues and say that those personalities are actually facilitating. Let's see what happens after
court.
all this
Very well.
The
Very
content
well.
today,
Very
the
well.
content today remains.
But that when you go to parliament, I'm sure your side will raise that
It is
matter.
also not unless we also political actors. We hear some of these things, and I'm sure we can all put reports like this together based on what we hear.
Are you
What we
questioning
hear,
the
me I
integrity
know,
of the
I know political actors, and we hear these things, but not until we have some solid basis or have ascertained the truth of some of these things. We are unable to put it out there.
So Honorable Issa,
we hear a lot of these
how
things.
do you hope this report is dealt with? Must this report in the first place be considered at all by the powers that be?
I think that if I were in position, I will ask for a formal report, a report that will give all the members of the inter-ministerial committee. I will ask for a formal report from them.
In the absence of that, this
I mean,
exists now.
it should be the way because
Yes,
they were a creation of cabinet.
Yes.
Cabinet actually mandated them to do a specific job. So when the tenure comes to an end, I'll expect that they submit a report that all the members of the committee actually subscribe to. Then the government
It doesn't
can
appear
act
from the
on
look
it.
of things that we can get that now. The only thing we have is this. What do we do with this report? We should throw it away or we should look at it?
I don't think that we should throw it away because personalities have been mentioned in there. Some of them have their credibility on the line, I mean, and all of that. So they could seek redress and the chief of staff itself could take some action. But I don't think that we should in entirety throw the report away.
Will you support
I think that we should.
a bipartisan probe from Parliament on this report?
I don't know how Parliament is going to act on such a report, though. I don't know how.
Why do you say so?
I don't know. Parliament as an institution has its way, but in any case, Parliament is a master of its own, like we say.
So for example,
Parliament
the
can
matter
actually
could be
come
raised
up
on the
with.
floor, and a side could call on the Speaker to set up a committee
It is possible.
to investigate and call all
It
these
is.
people.
It is possible.
Is there a call you will support?
Oh, for a Ghanaian who is affected directly and indirectly by the menace that illegal mining. I mean, why not? I mean, it shouldn't be a difficult thing to do. And it also give opportunities for the personalities that I mentioned in there to also clear their names. And I think that should be the way forward for all of us.
I see. So, Dr. Park, let me substantially come. Let me come to you substantively.
Very well.
On the matters. So, Honorable Fuseni Issa's earlier submission. In his earlier submission, he called for a bipartisan approach of dealing with the subject of Galamsey. Is this something that you will also buy into? We have a bipartisan approach. So maybe tomorrow the president calls you, maybe calls the other side and says, guys, let's sit around this, let's solve this. Nobody should make political capital out of this. We are all at risk.
Even before he comes in, it's not the first time. Not too long ago, the person was in Kumasi, meeting the National House of Chiefs. It was all in the year of bringing all the stakeholders on the table.
Yeah, but the president must do. How about the president calling his colleague, Mahama, that guy? We are all politicians, but this is destroying our country.
If you look at the release from the presidency, it goes on to say that the president is welcoming
No, but you see, these are rhetoric. These are things we say and write. But don't you think that some time ago the president met all former presidents? Yeah. It was very beautiful. Everybody praised him for that.
Sure.
This is a national emergency. You think if he's to call such a meeting solely to discuss Galamsey, people will not think he's really serious about this. And based on what comes out of that meeting, we take action.
The president has shown that he is ready to do whatever it takes, and he has said that, and he has shown that by commitment. Look, the amount of public resources that we have committed to this fight against illegal mining, it's itself in evidence, showing you the commitment of the president in fighting this menace. The fact that he's gone ahead to meet stakeholders. When he met the National House of Chiefs in Kumasi, it wasn't about any other issue. It was about illegal mining. Yes. Who else are you going to engage but for the Alodia owners of land everywhere? Every piece of land everywhere in this country has an overlord. Our culture and all of that. So who else is there to be met?
But the names
DCs, like we say,
the names
in the structure
are not chiefs necessarily. They are not chiefs. They are politicians. And so it must start from that side because they have the power. They have a certain kind of power that the chiefs don't have. So won't it be more useful?
Are you saying that?
No, they have political power. They have political power, which is huge.
But the chiefs have they are the Alodia owners.
Yes, of course.
Before a politician can enter into any concession or land, before you get your political power, the chiefs already have there, and the chiefs are there.
Yes, we know so the chiefs are there.
Who else has more power on this land?
The chiefs have power. But look at the names mentioned. When they are buying the land from individual owners to mine, they are getting into the forest to mine. There's very little the chiefs can say. Of course, one chief is on record to have said that they are just here. They hear that concessions have been handed down to people from Accra. And if the people come, they show their license. What can they do?
It is changed now. Now, before a license is actually issued, the chief will have to be consulted. You see, so now the chiefs are directly involved in all the small-scale mining activities that are formally legal.
I see.
And so anyone outside of that, it's illegal. That's why the chiefs are actually been empowered to be able to control.
Yes. So by partisan way of dealing with this, and how will Mahama hope to deal with this? Should we give him the nod? He wants to come back.
We would not be invited to be part of a hoax.
Oh, you are poo-pooing it even before it comes?
Yeah, it will be a cover. Everybody knows that this fight never.
So if the call is to come through, you won't take it seriously.
Part of a hoax.
Are you speaking for the NDC?
Yes.
Okay.
That if a call comes through, President calls you that guys, a lot of water has gone under the bridge. Let's sit and solve this.
We know that his own appointees are in charge. They are making it difficult for the fight to be waged.
What would be Mohammed's approach to dealing with Galamsey? Because now it's endemic. It's everywhere. A lot more people are doing it. The water bodies are not getting better. Forests reserves are depleting owing to Galamsey. How will he deal with this? It's a major matter that will come up.
He would hold people accountable first. You must first hold people accountable for their acts of omission and commission and complicity. And that means that those who have been cited, and a lot more that we know, who have been reported to have participated in destroying our environment and our river bodies, they must be held accountable. That is one thing that is not being done. If you begin to hold people accountable publicly, you begin to punish them visibly, and you don't care whose ox is God, that then sends a signal to everyone that if you do this, you will be punished. And then this whole charade of community mining, which is essentially the formation of groups belonging to the ruling party, their chairmen and officials, and then sharing.
You know this for a fact. You know this for a fact.
What is
the process is very open.
What process?
Go to the Minerals Commission. It is very open.
Who are natives, who applied and were denied, and people who are not natives. But
they are saying this on authority.
Yes, by virtue of the fact that they are party people, they have been given concessions.
By virtue of the fact that they are party, not Ghanaians, not necessarily Ghanaians.
No.
By virtue of the fact that they are party.
That is the point. That is what is happening.
And they were not qualified, but they were
given. The
given.
whole system is a charade.
It's a very transparent system.
It is fake.
It is a very transparent system. Go to the Minerals
Commission. There has never been a fight. Then what you have to do is to disband all of those structures and give ownership to the people. You bring in the traditional rulers. And as you said, many of them, they sit there, people come, and they bring them documentation. Calls come from above, from the type of characters mentioned in this document, that they have to be allowed to do it. And of course, security personnel are even assigned to go to some of these places, intimidate the indigents, including the chiefs, for these illegalities to be perpetrated. So you must disband the structure, reconstitute it by putting the natives and the local leadership of the people in charge, empower them, put in an arrangement that would allow them to also be equal stakeholders where they can also benefit. It is after that that you can then bring in the issues of reclamation, because you cannot even reclaim. It is rampant, it is everywhere. So how do you even think about reclamation?
And that's what Mahama would do.
We had a policy. I was in the big house. I was part of the team that drafted that policy. This issue of reclamation, it was in our policy document on how we're going to deal with it. We talked about it. We were dealing with it before we left power. And the evidence that we were being successful is based on the turbidity of the water level, of the turbidity of the water.
He's saying that you left them in bad situation.
Who said this whole fight started in 2017? You never revived it.
It means by 2017. It means by 2017 things were bad. So they came and decided to fight.
And so what are they now?
So we have tried to fight it. What were you doing? All you had was a policy document.
This is even after trying.
Yes, we tried to resolve it, and that's what we are doing. That is what we are doing. What did you do? All you had was a policy document sitting in the big house. Pay your admission.
The water is like the coffee.
Is worse than my coffee.
Pay your admission. All you had a pack was that you had a policy document.
Let me go to Richard.
Implementing it where? Give us evidence.
Because I was always with the president.
Yes.
I was with the president when we went to the what is it called?
But is it also on record that in the election time, some of your colleagues went to the mining areas and said that and gave them hope,
including the former president. He is today supporting
it was unfair for the indigents to be run out and people who were not supposed to be
not true. I have the videos
brought
here.
in.
But how was that going to solve the problem?
And then we were going to put them into cooperative groups.
That is not
get them properly registered, get them properly trained, and then they were going to be given incentives. This whole issue about what do you call it?
I'll take it.
Alternative livelihood empowerment. We had all of that in our policy.
What did you do?
What it means is
we were doing it. We lost an election.
The fight is big.
Salom, is it? Did we
do anything?
Did we stay in power? We lost an election, so we have to leave.
What is calling for?
And so you took over. And what is your record? Very well. Now, so what is your record?
Your microphones are
off. It is worse.
Richard. Richard, no, it's your microphones are actually off. Richard, it appears that from what you said initially, it doesn't appear to me that you think so highly of the committee that was put together to fight the menace. Is that your true reflection? Is that a true reflection of your position? That you think the committee did not do a very good job? Would it be correct to say that is your view?
Yes, and it's a position I have always maintained over the years. I've granted interviews to your station a number of times, and I've really made mention of that. Because I think the fight against Galamsey has been overly politicized. And if you want to address Galamsey, you don't put together a group of politicians to come up with solutions. That's why eventually we had a of the fight by the politicians. If we had technocrats leading the fight with the politician, particularly the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, providing oversight, for instance, I am sure we could have made a better headway than we are doing now. As it is, you had the chairman being a politician, all the members, in fact, all the ministers, they are all politicians. Within each ministry, there are also interest groups. We have the personal assistant of the minister, we have the party executive, we have this, we have that, and each one of them wants to take a bite of the cherry. And that's why we had this kind of messy situation happening. You look at all things mentioned in the report, and they are either politicians or they are connected to politicians. And that is a source of worry.
That's
Why not let...
Go ahead.
Okay. Why not let the technocrats lead? And then we demand accountability from them. Can we give them better indicators of success rather than the nebulous kind of thing we say, oh, when the ability of the water changes, then it means we are winning the fight. That for me is going way below the expectation.
Does it
Let
matter
us
to
pick
you?
better indicators.
Does it matter to you that some of the names mentioned in the report have come out to deny? Indeed, one of them, Governor Soro Chirako, is proceeded to court that he feels defamed by the comments made about him in the report. Essentially, he said he worked as a lawyer for a firm, and as lawyer, what he did was to inquire from the minister. The minister could not say that he gave counter instructions to the people on the ground. He only called to inquire whether the people were indeed prospecting, which they were supposed to do, or they were really mining. You know, that was what he did. So he was at a loss as to how that innocuous call could be construed as being interference. So that's what one person has said. On the other hand, we have seen the Kyebi Traditional Council also mobilize journalists to the vicinity and the house of the president in Kyebi that was mentioned. Does it matter to you all these denials or reactions that have come from the report? Could the report have been tighter? Could it have been better?
Sure. I believe that I wasn't expecting anybody who was mentioned in the report to come out and say, yes, indeed, I was involved in Galamsey. The denials are, to be expected anyway. That is the first thing. The second thing we need to understand is that I am maybe not too focused on the specific names mentioned in the report. I am more particular about the general capture of the fight by politicians from both sides. I am not interested in the specific names, but I am interested in the names that come up, even at the community level. For party chairmen, party secretaries, party apparatchiks, who are all involved in the Galamsey menace. For me, that is where we need to turn our attention to. That is why I said if we had taken time to investigate this further, we would have even gone beyond the names that were mentioned. We would have even gone beyond the names that were mentioned in the Jubilee House, in the ministries, etc., etc. Let us come down to the communities. What is happening in the communities? Who owns what? And if we have a solid national security, they will be able to point out to you that this particular mining operation going on in this particular community belongs to this politician. They will be able to fish it out. If I, as a civilian, as somebody who lives in the community, I hear all these things, I'm sure that the national security guys also know. If I hear it, it means they probably might know even more details than I will do. So I want us to investigate further. Let us go beyond the names in the report. Let us get down to the communities. Make inquiries. Who is doing what? Who is operating which mine? And then let us come up with a concrete framework that will help us to fight Galamsey, devoid of the partisanship that we are seeing now. All the back and forth between NDC and PP, for me, is not necessary. At the end of the day, both parties are involved, and both parties have to come up with a solution that will protect the national interest, not just parochial party interest.
Very well. Thank you so much. Let me start off with you. What will be your closing remarks on the matter of the report, the reactions, the way forward, etc.?
Well, Solomon, my position obviously would mimic the position of my party. As you know, the party held a press conference on this matter, made a number of pronouncements and suggestions. Obviously, we are asking for a probe on the basis of this report by the Office of the Special Prosecutor, and we are also asking for a bipartisan parliamentary committee to look into this matter, akin to what happened within the context of the Sputnik V vaccine, so that both the author of the document and those he has indicted, as well as the other supporting cast, because this raises a number of questions. I mean, it brings into question the role of the Ghana Army, the Ghana Police. It brings into question the role of national security. So there are so many angles And I think that if we can muster the courage as a nation to push for a public interrogation of this report, the outcome would serve as a template to inform us on the way forward, as captured by the heading, the way forward.
Okay, I see. Nice one. Honorable Issa Hussein.
Salam. I think that we still have quite a bit to do on the fight against Galamsey. The president remains resolved, he's committed, and he has said in the past he's prepared to put everything, including his presidency, on the line to ensure that we win this fight. He's committed resources to it. What I urge my other Ghanaians to do, the people on the other side of the political divide, is not to use this report as another opportunity for them to pursue some political parochial interest, but come to the table as a people. Let's all resolve to ensure that the culprits, the people who are causing us a problem, are actually fished out and dealt with by the law, rather than another opportunity for us to be dangling this report around, going to Parliament, you go everywhere else. Look, the report states both sides of the political divide are indicted in this whole process. And it is sad that people in authority who should really have some empathy on other Ghanaians are taking us through this whole thing. Right? It's really sad. But I think that we should take the politics out as a people. We should sit at a table and realize that, look, at a point in time, look, we are putting everything at stake. Now, our farmlands are at risk, and even the minerals. Even minerals now, global markets are talking about certification of minerals. It will come to a point where gold from Ghana might even be blacklisted, such that when you get gold from Ghana, you cannot even sell it on the international market. And that's a reality. That's where the international markets are looking at. So we should sit at the table as a people and be able to resolve this matter, rather than use it as another opportunity to extract.
The president has less than 2 years to go. Do you think that we will see any significant improvement between now and the time?
It's still a long time, and he's always been committed, and he still remains committed. And I believe that he will fight this thing until his last day in office.
Very well. It will be difficult to take the politics out of it. No. And you are my honest opinion. There should be a total ban on all forms of mining
again
for about 2 to 3 years until we figure out the way forward.
I see.
It didn't work.
That's a call from.
We did that for 2 years.
It was done, but it came back with the modifications and Galam stop and everything.
Let civil society.
So Richard, you have the final word on this. Just 1 minute.
Yes. Straight up, I'll say that let us take the fight, the Galamsey fight away from the arena of partisan fight. I've made that point already. The second thing is that let us also make sure we bring the big fishes to book. So far, we've always paraded these young people in the communities, youth who are unemployed and who go to the Galamsey site and are employed. And we arrest them, parade them on TV, and we pretend to be fighting against Galamsey. Let us go after the big fishes, those politicians, whether they are in the Flagstaff House, whether they are in the ministries, MMDCs, whoever they are. Let us go after them. And once we get the big fishes, then it will send a signal to everybody that indeed they are serious and the fight against Galamsey. Until we do that, let's forget it. Let's really forget it. So to end, I will support the establishment of the independent inquiry. We need to delve deeper into the report, get to the bottom of it, get to understand who played what role, and then that will guide us in fashioning out a different framework going forward.
Do you also support a total ban on Galamsey and small-scale mining activities now, as Dr. Park is suggesting?
No, unfortunately, no. If there are a few miscreants who are spoiling the soup, we don't throw away the entire soup. Let us fish out those miscreants, and then we'll be able to, deal with the problem.
Very well. Thank you so much. All right, so we will draw the curtains down on this part of this segment of the program. We will take a short break. When we return, we will look at the matter of the school feeding program, what happens to the school kids, how government can raise money to pay these caterers, etc. In the meantime, I guess for this segment, you just heard Richard Kojo Elima, who is a natural resource governance analyst. Honorable Fuseni Isa, former MP Okankwe North, will be on the next panel as well. And Dr. Clement Apak, who is MP for Busa South, and also will be on the next panel. We will have Dorothy Ofori Sapon, who is Secretary for the School Feeding Caterers Association. She will join us on the next panel. This is The Big Issue on 97.3 City FM. We are also on City Tube, on YouTube, of course, on City TV. My name is Selom Adonu. We'll be back with more. Don't go away. Hi, you're welcome back to The Big Issue on 97.3 City FM. We are also on City Tube, on YouTube, and obviously we are on City TV. So we just gone by was a discussion on Galamsey and the matters arising. The consensus really is that we need to take our politicians from the fight, put a lot of technocrats in there. Politicians give general direction, and it could be better. But the consensus also is that as we speak, it doesn't look very good, but there is hope at the end of the tunnel. We must try and tap into that hope. We are now on the discussion of the school feeding program. As you may be well aware by now, school feeding caterers are on strike. They say government owes them a lot of money. They also want an increment in the amount of money paid them per child per day, per meal. It stands around 95 pesos or so. They want it increased to 3 cedis a day. Government, we are not sure what government is saying yet, but that is their concern. So they've laid down their tools, and they say they won't work until government comes to the table with something better. Now, let me give you some updates. Caterers under the government school feeding program have declared a nationwide strike following the government's failure to pay them their arrears and increase the amount per child. They have thus threatened to embark on a massive nationwide demonstration if their concerns are not addressed as early as possible. City News' Bureau Chief for the Middle Belt, Eduardo Pomafo, has more.
Since the reopening of school 4 weeks ago, caterers under the government school feeding program in the Ashanti region have been on strike. This comes after they declared a strike following government's failure to pay them their arrears and increase the amount per each student. The matter has now taken a bigger dimension as their counterparts from other regions across the country have joined. The aggrieved caterers drawn from various regions across the country who converged in the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi, stressed that laying down their tools is the only option available to them now. Speaking at a news conference, they lamented that they are going through harsh economic times, which they have attributed to the government's failure to pay them their arrears. The leadership of the caterers has thus urged all members across the country to join the strike to impress on government to address their concerns as early as possible. One of the leaders of the caterers, Gifty Asamoah, addressed the media.
The conditions of services, payment and treatment of caterers by the school feeding secretariat, the Ministry of Finance and Government are deplorable. They have worsened our economic, social and health situations. Caterers have become indebted to the traders and farmers we credited items from. The failure of government to pay caterers on time, to increase the price of a hot nutrition meal from 97 pesos to a meaningful amount. The underpayment and various deductions and other items listed in our letter to the President are making caterers a laughing stock, impoverished and very miserable. Caterers have become worse than beggars and we are suffering. We have cried and talked plenty, but our appalling situation remains the same, and that is why we are declaring a nationwide strike until our condition of service, price of a meal, payment issues and treatment are addressed positively as per our 10 points in our letter to the President.
Speaking to City News, the Volta Regional Secretary of the Ghana National School Feeding Caterers, Francis Tosu, highlighted some issues they want authorities to address urgently.
Condition that will get us back to the kitchen is that when 2022 third term is paid, the majority of us can get back to the kitchen. So these are the two major conditions for now. Increase in the rates and payment for 2022 third term. These are the two major issues. Then there are issues of isolated cases, arrears which are isolated cases. Some of our members, since 2019, government owes them. 2017, government owes them. Some, they have been, so that is the arrears column. We also have the issue of deductions, which they claim is non-cooking days. When you are cooking, on daily basis, your head of school take record of your operations. Then at the end of the term, you are told the number of days you have cooked and number of days that you do not cook. This information is passed through the district, the region, to the national. But when it's time for payment, then they'll underpay you heavily. Sometimes our caterers will lose as much as 11,000, 18,000, 10,000. It's just too bad. You have work. How much is even your profit that they will cut you like that? These cases should be addressed. Since they are not the people supervised at our school, it is only our head of school that can tell whether we've come to work or we didn't come to work. Nobody should sit at the head office and be deducting money from our distance. Then there is the issue of hot meals. In 2020, during the COVID, we were made to cook for JSS 2 and JSS 3. That money is still outstanding. I know a lady in the Volta region who lost 50,000 Ghana cedis. 50,000. These and others are our concerns. Government should address these things. We are surprised that the Secretariat submit data to government. When government release money to pay, then they begin to play this mathematics with the money. So there is a great suspicion that the Secretariat is costing government so much in terms of cash. The money that is revealed to them, we are suspecting high malpractices going on at the Secretariat, that we want government to look into the operations of the Secretariat. And if need be, some people should be relieved of their posts.
The caterers have also threatened to embark on a nationwide demonstration if the issue is not addressed as early as possible. The Ghana National School Feeding Caterers organizer, Kwame Amankwa, and a leading member of the caterers group, Therese Ufori-Sapon, have been speaking to City News on the intended demonstration.
I'm a caterer. I'm from Accra. If they don't respond to our issue, they will invite the Kumasi people so they will come to Accra. We will continue our demonstration. Thank you very much.
Why are you planning to demonstrate?
Yes, if the government did not respond to our issues, we will plan and do demonstration. But as I'm speaking to you, we are on strike. We are on strike.
We are doing all these things to sensitize the government that we are not happy with the kind of things is going on in the Secretariat. And so this is the second time of engaging in the media. We want to tell the government that if they refuse this time to give us our money and tell us something positive, we are going to do nationwide demonstration. We are going to strike heavily, the whole Ghana. We are going to do it.
Demonstration?
Yes, nationwide demonstration. We are going to call all the women and demonstrate against the government. And so we want to tell him that they should go to that Secretariat and make sure we get our money and they investigate whatever deal that is going on there. Otherwise, our next action will be the nationwide demonstration.
The caterers are insisting that they are not returning to cook at the various schools until government addresses their key concerns. For City News, I'm Edward Oponmafo, Kumasi.
Hey, come on! Yay! 97 pesos! Yay! Give me 97 pesos! Yay! Give me
Hi, welcome back. So you saw that report where the school feeding caterers are saying that 97 pesos, that summarizes one of their concerns. The second one is the arrears. They are owed a lot of money, about a year. And they said they sent to government a 10-point petition or letter, and they want government to act on those. But key amongst them are the arrears and the rates. 97 pesos for one hot meal a day per child. They say that is inadequate. And also, government must deal with their arrears. Well, welcome back to the big issue. Now, let's zoom straight to action. My guest this segment of the program, Madame Dorothy Ufori-Sapon, Secretary, School Feeding Caterers Association, Dr. Clement Apak, MP, Bosa South, and the ranking member on the Education Committee. Deputy ranking member on the Education Committee. The Honorable Fuseni Issa. Now, when I mention your name, I want to look at it. When I'm looking at it, well, the eyes of the Honorable to get it right. Yes. The Honorable Fuseni Issa, former member of
incoming minister. You should say incoming minister, not a former incoming minister in 2025.
He's helping you to
Inshallah.
For now,
incoming minister in 2025.
But for now, he's a former MP for Okankwe North. He wants to go back to Parliament. So, gentlemen and ladies, you're welcome to the program. Let me start off with you, Madame Dorothy Ufori-Sapon. How are you? And you're welcome to the program. And indeed, I must also say that Madam Dorothy Oforisam, who is Secretary of the Ghana School Feeding Catering Association, is joining us from our Kumasi studios. And so she's in Kumasi, so we are connecting with her live from our Kumasi studios. Madam, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, and good morning to your panel members, and good morning to your viewers.
I see. You have embarked on a strike, but first of all, can you talk to us about your membership? How many are you people in your association?
Thank you very much. We are roughly more than 10,000, let me say so.
10,000 caterers?
In Ashanti region alone, yes, because in Ashanti region alone, we are about 600 or more.
I see.
Or maybe to be a little lower than 10,000, but we are many.
I see. And then how much are you owed when you put everything together? Have you done that calculation? When you put everything together, how much does government owe you?
That one, we don't have the data because individually different amounts that they are owing us, but it's a sizable amount of money.
And then what period does this arrears cover? You know, some say they are owed 1 year, 2 terms, 1 term, but generally, how much is or how long does the arrears extend to? How many terms or how many years?
Thank you very much. After Otiko left, a lot of people didn't get their money.
Otiko being the former minister of children, gender, children and social protection. And the school feeding program is under the social protection arm of that ministry, which means that is your sector minister. She left and then another person was appointed to a place. I think that was Sarah Adjosaph, is that correct?
No, that was Cynthia Morrison.
That's Cynthia Morrison. Thanks so much. Cynthia Morrison was appointed and then later Adjosaph was appointed. Now we have a new minister. Yes, so go ahead.
Yes, but the challenge started at her time, and so we have to quote that time because
so
a lot of people didn't get their
time. Is that correct? Otiko Jabe's time.
No, after Otiko Jaba left.
Go ahead. Go ahead. So the challenge started in whose time? In Cynthia Morrison's time or Otiko Jabe's time? In whose time?
Otiko Jabe's time, you might not get more than 10 people, but she was very proactive, and so it wasn't generated to any serious issues. But the whole issue started after 2019, from COVID time, that is 2020 till date.
I see. So, have you engaged the ministry or your agency, that is the Ghana School Feeding Program? Have you engaged them? What was the nature of the engagement and what did they tell you?
That is what we are lacking, and that has resulted into this very action that we took. Nobody is giving us a listening ear. We have tried heaven and earth. Nobody is giving us the chance to even talk to them or listen to us.
You mean you have tried speaking to your sector boss, Madam Gertrude Koshiga, who has the Ghana School Feeding Program, or you tried speaking to the program itself and nobody is responding to you? Is that what you're saying?
Oh yes, because when the issue started, there is a structure. So you first of all report your district desk officer, and then he or she will compile the challenges or issues and forward it to the regional coordinator. And then we also follow to that place. The regional coordinator will also compile everything and send it to the national. But the national excuses here and then, they will never respond or correct that issue till this time.
I see. So you decided to lay down your tools. And when did you decide to lay down your tools? And how has it been so far? So now you are home, you are not working. Is that correct?
Oh, yes.
So when do you anticipate that? So since you laid out your tools, has anybody called your leadership? Has anybody called you to have a conversation with you?
Never. Because when the thing started, they paid the last year first term. And we saw that the money wasn't enough. And then we did the calculation, we saw that no, it wasn't up to what we expected. Because, as I said, when Otiko was there, the e-switch, when you print out, you see the number of days that you have cooked. And even before the payment, Otiko will issue a message that you are going to be paid tomorrow or tomorrow next. And this is the total number of days that you have cooked. But I am going to pay you so and so date. And so the money will come and everything will be right. So for instance, if you cooked for 65 days, Otiko will pay you about 45 days and indicated that I'm owing you 25 days or 20 days. Then expect the payment next month. As soon as you receive your money, the next month you also receive the arrears. And so we were okay with that. But after she left, nothing on that sort, on the issue card or the paper. When you print, you don't see anything. You don't see the number of days that you have cooked. And the number of days that they want is what they are going to pay you. And when you present your issue, nobody will attend to you.
Why do you think the system has changed? You know, the e-switch and all of that, the details on it. Why do you think that it has changed?
It is about leadership. Because we don't understand. And they will never come down to even explain things to us. And that is why we are angry. If we present it to the regional basis, the regional secretariat, that is school feeding secretariat at the regional, they will receive you. They will take everything, they will send it to Accra. But then you don't get any response, and they will be following up. We are with them, so we know it. And that is why we wanted our regional minister to receive our petition and present it to the president for him to see it, so that he can order people to go to that secretariat and investigate what is going on there. But nobody was prepared to listen to us.
I see. So is it a case that you have a problem with the National Secretariat and its boss? Or, you know, because it appears that everything you're saying is pointing to a certain direction. Do you have a problem with Madame Kwashiga and the Secretariat proper?
Very serious issue with them. They are the main cause of the whole thing. Because we are all citizens of this nation. We know that now the government is facing a lot of financial crisis. And so we know that the money wouldn't be sufficient. But as Otiko was doing, you get that little amount, you explain to us, you pay it, and then you assure us. We are all human beings. We understand the system. We know what is going on. And so we are not ignorant about the fact that we are facing a lot of crisis in this nation. But leadership, poor leadership style, they are refusing. They don't value us. They don't value what we do. They don't have any regard for we the caterers. And that pains us that because we are all members of the party, we went down there to work. And now you are enjoying at the top. And when we have problems, you don't want to listen to us. But the media are there for us. They are there for the voiceless. And that is why we are shouting. It shouldn't have reached this stage.
Exactly. So you made a very important point that you are all members of the party. How were you guys recruited, or how did you come to be members of the program? How did you become caterers of the school feeding program?
Thank you very much. It was our former president, President Kufuor, who initiated all these programs. And so the caterers of MPP people applied it. And then it was successful. Then when we lost power in 2008, then NDC people took over. Because this nature of job, if you are not a party member, you can't sacrifice for it. Because you need a lot of sacrificial spirit to do it. And so they took over from 2009 to 2017 that they lost, and we also took over. And so what we did was that you apply to the assembly. And then assembly will present you the letter stating, can you pre-finance it? And the pre-financing is termly. It's termly. so that if the number of days in a term is 60 days or 65 days, you are going to pre-finance it. Then immediately after the term end, before we open the next academic term, payment will come. And even if the payment is not enough, you'll be able to get something to go and buy your stuff.
I
so
see.
This was how it started.
I see. So are you saying that if...
And it was fine.
Yes. If I know how to cook, I have a track record of cooking very well, etc., and I do not have a party card, I can't get into the school feeding program. Is that what you are telling me?
Oh, we have about, in my team, we have about 5 members who are not MPP card-bearing members. But you could see that they are all sympathizers. And sometimes too, you could see that this woman is a cook. We all know the person in the society because it's a pre-finance thing. If even you are a party member and you took it and then you can't do it, you can let that person do it on your behalf. And so it wasn't chinchina chain like you must be a party holder, a card-bearing member before you do it. But if you are capable of pre-financing and you can cook well.
And so you can get a contract, but you outsource the contract to somebody who can cook better than you for the person to do it. So that when you get the money, you give the person some. Is that what you're saying?
Not that you sell. It's a whole part because as I said before we started, it was monthly payment. That was 205678. It was monthly payment by the assembly. But when NDC resumed, I think they centralized the whole program. And that is why they took it from the assembly. And now they try to do it termly. But then the termly, sometimes it delays. And so you have to continue cook for the children. So that is why sometimes you have to engage another third party to come in to help. Because if my money can only cater for a term, and now we are going beyond 2 terms, you definitely need somebody. If you like, you can go in for loan. If you like, you can go and credit staff. But when it becomes so difficult and you can't, you have to engage another party to be in help to provide a meal for the children.
All right, so you are unable to tell me how much government owes the association. But can you tell me how much the government owes you or your team members?
Thank you very much. Personally, I'm expecting not less than 42,000.
For what period?
From the third term and the first term of this year, the third term of last term and the first term of this very term, and then the arrears from 2020.
So arrears of 2020. So but if you have arrears from 2020, it means you've not been paid for 2021, right? And you've not been paid for 2022 and 2023.
No, 2020, the COVID.
Okay.
2020 COVID, they gave us an additional tax. That is when we cooked for the JHS students, if you could remember.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, so that hasn't been paid.
Yes.
I see. And so...
That's a lot of them.
I see. The other issue that has come up is the quality of the food you give to the children. Have you heard that concern, that the food you give to the children is of poor quality? Have you heard that before?
It's very true, but it is one out of thousands. Because, you see, it's just like you have different women cooking. Definitely, you won't get it the same. But even that one, there was a reason why. And that woman explained, I think it was around Wamwasi or so. It came on air, so a lot of people rushed to her. And she explained that the granite that she bought wasn't good. And that is why. And after that, you could go and see the food. Very nice. So it was just a one-day mistake.
How is the supervision like? Is there somebody from the district who goes around to check the quality of the food you guys are preparing? And you have the required certification, for example, from FDA and those agencies of state that will qualify you to do this job?
Oh, the regional coordinators and the district coordinators, they come round a lot, because I remember one day they came to my school and then they said, are you sure this is school feeding? They all sat down and eat some, because we give we serve the teachers, and so they eat some. And so you cannot just cook anything basa for the children. It's a good meal, just that the quantity, it is the quantity that is questionable. And that is why now, because of the high prices in food items, we are pleading that it should be increased a bit for us to also make up the food, make up the quantity for the children.
Well, so the last question for now, what kinds of food do you give the children? And you personally, how many schools do you have and children under you?
Personally, I have one school. But then we cook jollof rice, we cook wache, we cook benku and okra soup or benku and pepper with 1,000. And then sometimes we also cook gari and beans, you see, and sometimes yam with contomere stew. So we cook balanced diet for them.
I see. All right. So thanks so much. So we'll just hold on. We'll come back to you. But just to confirm, now you are paid 97 pesos per child per day per meal, and now you want it increased to what? 3.5, 3 cedis, 50 pesos. Is that correct?
That is what we proposed.
I see. All right. So just hold on. We'll come to you. So let me start off with you, Honorable Issa. So yes, she's explained the problem. They are owed quite huge sums of money. In her case, she's owed 42,000 for the period. How do they continue cooking when they don't get the money? So now they don't cook. Children are not eating, and it is defeating the whole essence of the program. They also allege that the Secretariat does not engage them, appropriately, or does not engage them as they should, and so they have no option now than to strike, and it's the children who lose. What do you have to say about these matters?
Selom, you see, this whole school feeding policy, it's a very important policy, and I'm sure that my brother, Dr. Apako, alluded to the fact that it's a very important one and has been very critical since it was introduced way back in 2005. I tell you that it's been a policy that is also expanded quite significantly. As of 2016, the beneficiaries were about 1.6 million. Today in 2023, as we speak, the beneficiaries are 3.6 million. So we are talking about 3.6 million pupils in about 10,800 basic schools, public schools across the country who benefit from this policy. It is the policy is grown over time, and I think that it's something that should be commended and supported, because its impact on enrollment at the basic school, it's very evident that it's improved enrollment significantly. And of course, we, especially for the New Patriotic Party, have taken investments in this, particularly education and health, very, very, very seriously. I mean, we believe that for not just for today, but for the future of this nation, we need to actually invest in the human capital, be able to build this over time to an appreciable level. And evidence abounds that nations that have made strides in their development trajectory have actually paid attention to the quality of human resource. And if there's a way that we want or we could attain that, then we should go that way. It is instructive that if you look at the 2023 budget, the total allocated funds for this program is 969 million cedis. That's how much we are spending per year on this policy. And if we are able to get the ultimate results, then I think that it's money worth spent. I still have a little difficulty, not a little, but I have difficulty as to what the lady in Ashanti region is saying. The whole structure in place, and I mean, I have heard arguments being done in quarters that, look, should we not just give this whole school feeding program to the MMDCs so they look like the common fund, and just shouldn't we localize it? Because one of the initial thinking around this whole policy was that, Look, it was even a market for local produce, such that in instances you go to communities where they harvest vegetables and they go bad because there was no market.
All the policy objectives.
Yeah, is to use the local inputs.
Is to grow local economies.
Look, for an economy to grow, we have to consume, we have to spend. And government being the biggest spender, it's also one avenue that we could use to spur up our economy. Look, the woman was mentioning numbers of caterers in the Ashanti region. But I tell you that from the figures that I have, from the 2023 budget, of the 10,800 schools that are under the program, they are employing 32,000 caterers and cooks across the country. And that's quite significant, even in employment avenues. This is just for employment avenues. So it is a program that is critical. It is crucial. So we need to get it going, given what the nation stands to benefit down the line. If there is a problem with the secretariat, there's a bottleneck in the system. We need to actually find a way to resolve this, rather than those intermittent issues every now and again.
But it's an issue of money, is it not? Aside from the relationship matters, money hasn't been released for them.
Money hasn't been released,
so that's a core issue.
And whatever it is, for me, from where I sit, I think that we should really find a way to resolve this matter rather than resort to look. There are, from what I glean and from what I hear, there are pupils who go to school just because they are sure of that meal. And so it is not something that we have to underrate. They are going to school just because school it's very crucial, and it's important that kids are not left to. It's kind of worrying where we are with the matter, I must admit. But I look forward to, I've heard that the coordinator, at least about a week ago, was trying to resolve some of these things. She had some meetings on their WhatsApp groups. I heard she had some interactions with them and all of that. I'm looking forward to a resolution, because looking at the data, 3.6 million people every day. It is no small thing.
Cooks.
33,000 cooks and 10,800 schools.
And the multiplier effect, what farmers will get, what traders in the local areas will get.
It is massive. And this are how economies have developed.
Exactly.
By finding markets for their own produce and having some multiplier effects of economic activity within the localities that these schools operate. So I think that we should really find some resolution. I empathize with them, and I don't know how come we are where we are now, and I look forward to some resolution.
I see. I mean, we are where we are because money hasn't been released, but we'll deal with that. So we'll take a short break. Dr. Park will have his take on this. This is the big issue on 97.3 City FM. We are looking at the issue of the school feeding program, ensuring the survival of a key social intervention program. This is one of the social intervention programs whose effect is seen palpably, and quite a lot of money is going into it. But the caterers, the figures we are having is they are in excess of 30,000. They are on strike, which means that the over 3.6 million students or pupils in the various beneficiary schools are not being fed the one hot meal a day as we are promised, or as they are promised. My guest, the Honorable Fuseni Issa, you just heard his take. And also, joining us from our Kumasi studios, Madame Dorothy Forisapon, who is Secretary to the School Feeding Caterers Association, and Dr. Clement Park, MP for Bosa South, is also here. We hear from him after the break. This is a big issue. Don't go away.
Gives you entertainment at its best.
Let's find out.
And you're invited to join in with GoTV.
Come on in.
The world's biggest sports talent.
It's into the back of the net.
Of course they're in. The coolest kids characters.
This is where we're meant to be.
Most definitely all in.
You enjoy yourself with them shrimps and prime rib.
Africa's biggest local stars.
Now it's time for you to impress.
They're in. The hottest reality celebs.
We keep our history alive and share our past.
All in for sure.
We are ready to turn up.
And the greatest international sensations.
Look around. This is your moment.
Yep, they'll be there.
Consider that done.
You know it. They're all in. So join in on entertainment at its best with GoTV. Opia Dewo. Love it.
You're welcome back to the big issue. We are looking at the matter of the school feeding program, seeing through how or thinking through how such a big program, social intervention program, a key program, can be sustained. They are on strike, about 32 or 33,000 caterers, at least from the budget as a number of caterers on the program, and they are all on strike. The 3.6 million people who are beneficiaries of the program are not given food now because they are owed. We heard from the secretary to the School Feeding Caterers Association, Madame Dorothy Ofori-Sapon, eloquently articulate their concerns. We'll get back to you again. The Honorable Fuseni Issa, former MP for Kankwe South, Kankwe North, and seeking to go back, has also addressed some of the issues. Dr. Clement Apak, so we've listened to them. We know generally what their concerns are. But it appears the big issue is that we do not have money, and that is the matter. You know, what's your comment generally?
Well, Salam, I think that we have to look at this from various angles. And it is important to restate the basis and why such a very important social intervention ought to be sustained and maintained, even in the midst of self-inflicted economic crisis. The purpose of the current economic crisis that the nation is facing is self-inflicted, totally avoidable. That is my choice of seeing it. You can say the glass.
It goes far.
You can say the glass is half full.
So you really have to.
Or half empty.
He said it's not self-inflicted. It's as a result of global, matters.
That is his interpretation.
Okay, you have another interpretation.
That is self-inflicted.
Okay.
I mean, the purpose of the program is obvious, as we've all stated, at least all of you have stated so far, is to increase enrollment, sustain attendance, and retention. And we know that it has been positive in that regard. It is also intended to reduce short-term hunger and malnutrition.
Okay.
And it is supposed to boost domestic production. These are the three immediate objectives of the program. In the long term is to reduce poverty and improve food security. Now, why are we where we are? The answer is simple. A lack of disbursement of resources assigned to finance the program. My good friend Fuseni has indicated, rightly so, that in the 2023 budget, under government flagship programs, or the cost of government flagship programs, it is captured as item 4, where 969 million Ghana cedis has been allocated to finance the program. The year before, which was 2022, 881 million had been allocated to finance the program. So the question is this: if we have seen it fit as a people to capture the school feeding program under government flagship programs, and these allocations have been made at least for 2022 and 2023, why is it that we still owe the school feeding caterers? And why is it that the call for an augmentation of the current rate upwards from the current 97 pesos is not getting the needed attention? And
because there's no money. That's the obvious answer, you know.
There is no money. But you see, I have argued, and I'll argue again, that it is in times of difficulty, in times of crises like this, that the state and those in charge of affairs of state must marshal resources, as meager as they would be, to invest in sustaining social interventions. Because remember that when you have a system usually there are categories of citizens who fall below the line. And that is why you introduce social intervention programs. And so when the system is challenged, as I said earlier, as a result of the current self-inflicted economic crises, then you would expect that the state and those in charge of the affairs of state will do whatever they can to mobilize resources to ensure that the vulnerable in society, the less privileged, and that is what the program is supposed to serve. It's supposed to cater to all public primary and kindergartens, particularly in deprived and less privileged areas. So this is even the time that government has to find the money to ensure that programs like the school feeding program are sustained because of the type of clientele that the program is supposed to serve. So, for example, we have argued that why do we need a bloated government? I mean, why do we need 361 presidential staffers at the Jubilee House at a time like this, when we have the need to finance very important social interventions of this nature?
So some of them
why do we need multiple deputy CEOs for different government agencies? Why do we need deputy ambassadors at this time? Why do we continue to pay a CEO and a staff for a cater pot all this while, when we cannot even find money to finance the school feeding program? Why did we have to invest in excess of 300 million Ghana cedis towards the construction of a personally pledged cathedral, when we have very crucial national-oriented social intervention programs like this to cater? So when you ask me that question, it is not about a lack of financial resources. It is about a lack of prioritizing what is most important as far as Ghanaians are concerned. Because this government has been able to find money. Quite recently, we had the announcement by the Honorable Benito Owusu-Bio, the Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, that some 2.5 million has been approved
for the tree planting.
For tree planting.
Ghana, Green Ghana.
Is it a priority?
But we need to green Ghana.
We need to green Ghana. Are we protecting the existing forest? How well have we done in protecting the existing forest? We just spoke about Galamsey. And the fact that elements within this government, in fact, the late Sir John actually issued permits for 47 mining companies to go and mine in forest reserves. What are we doing to protect the existing forest? And even the trees that we've been planting since this Greening Ghana began. How well have we catered to those trees? At this time,
about 80%
the point I am making is that if we are to prioritize, if I had a choice, we will put some of these expenditures on hold and then move those resources to pay the school feeding caterers their arrears and to increase the rate from the current miserable and measly 97 pesos per child. What can 97 pesos do today? Even an egg. An egg. How much is the cost of an egg?
But because there are many, the economies of scale will come. When you buy a lot,
but
it's
you
cheaper.
see, the women are realistic. It's part of the economics of scale. They go to the markets that you and I go to. The price of cooking oil has gone up. The price of rice has gone up. The price of beans has gone up. So it is practically impossible to expect them to be able to provide a hot, nutritious meal per child per school-going day with 97 pesos per day. And you see, many of these women have pre-financed, as they have said. Some have gone for loans from banks. Some have gone for loans from microfinance. Others have gone to loan sharks. They are being pursued by, these groups to pay them back. They have no money. So how do you expect them to be able to dispense their responsibilities? And guess what? A lot of them are even being threatened that their contracts will be revoked by the school feeding secretariat.
Why? Because they are not doing
Because they are not cooking. But how do you expect them to cook when you are not providing them with the logistics? You have to pay them what you owe them. and you have to increase the fee. You are not doing this. And when they complain, you are threatening that you are going to revoke their contracts. And you see, what is also quite important to include in this whole conversation is the existence of ghost schools and ghost caterers. Some of the caterers have mentioned that. Ghost schools have been created and ghost caterers have come into existence and they are being paid for no work done. These are some of the reasons that caused the former Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, the Honorable Sarah Josephus, to initiate some probe. And that was the beginning of her woes.
When she tried to dismiss the
very well
school feeding boss.
The underlying reason was that there were reports of malfeasance and the existence of ghost schools and the fact that monies were being siphoned to people who were not cooking. And that was the beginning of her woes. And if you ask the school feeding caterers, they will tell you they are aware. So there is a lot that is going on that is not right. But the bigger issue is the inability of government to pay them and to increase the rate. And I want to call on government to divert resources. Look, we want trees. We want to green Ghana. But between feeding our children, over 3 million of them, in the public basic school system, and then planting trees, I would opt that we use those monies at this time to pay the school feeding caterers and to look at adjusting the rate to 3 cedis as they have asked for. And let's shelve the planting of trees for this year until things normalize. Let's devote attention to protecting the trees that we have already planted and to protect those that God himself has given to us free of charge.
What God himself has planted.
Yes. Rather than giving the concessions away to mining companies to go in there and mine.
Let me speak to Madame Dorothy. Madame Dorothy, are you there?
Yes.
There's a claim that there are ghost schools and ghost caterers, which means that there are caterers who don't exist, but their names are on the list. So when you guys are being paid, they are also being paid. Have you heard of that? And what can you say to us about that?
Absolutely. These are all some of the reasons why we are voicing it out. It is true. They should go there and investigate it.
So this is a matter that has come to your attention. And you guys are saying that there are schools which don't exist and caterers who don't exist but are paid.
Of course, we know it. That is why some of us, we've realized that we don't have money. But some few people are still cooking. Why are they cooking? It's because they know how to get money. If we don't cook, it means that they can't claim that money. And that is why they are insisting some of them should go down there and cook. Otherwise, how are they going to base on it and then pay themselves?
I see. Is it also the case that some of your members are being threatened that their contracts will be revoked? Is that the case as well? That they will take the contract away from them?
I am using this platform to send a message to them that they should resist from that. And that is why a lot of women are dying slowly, because they are just intimidating them. If you don't go there to cook, we will take the school from you. Why? You have breached the contract and you are also going to threaten her. Why? Because in the contract you say termly. You didn't say 3-term cooking before you pay. We have cooked for 1 term, no payment. We've cooked another term, no payment. This is the 3rd term that we are cooking. And we are just pleading that just give us the last one, the 3rd term, so that we can be a bit relieved to go and buy the stuff. And then you are not giving us. You are not pleading with us, but you are rather forcing us. No, it shouldn't be that. It seems they are heartless. And because the vulnerable women among us, they will go down, they borrow heavily. They will go and take money, maybe 10,000, for an interest of the same 10,000. Why?
So where do you source your foodstuffs from? Where do you buy them from? Do you buy them from the local market, the farmers? Where do you get them from?
Oh yes, when you have money, you can go to, for Ashanti region, we can go to Ejura and the other part of the rural areas to go and purchase from there. Or we just contract some of the market women for them to bring us the stuff. And sometimes too, you have to buy it depending on what you are going to cook.
I see. So if, let's say you are called by the secretariat or by your minister, and you are giving assurances, not money, you are giving assurances that go back and do the work, we are putting resources together to pay you. Will you go back and cook for the children? Because now the children have been left just to their own fate. Will you go back? Will you do that?
We would have loved to do that, but there is no way we'll be able to do it because we are owing a lot. You see, we don't have money. Last year, COVID time, you know how the prices shoot up, and we couldn't make up our margins. We lost everything. Look at oil from 180, 450 to 11 million, and you are still going to be paid at 97 pesos. How are you going to make up? And so, unless they give us the last 10 payment, and then come down to speak to us. We are in the party, we are all party members. We love the party. But without that 10 payment, and then telling us how much they can pay us for this year, we can't go back to cook.
I see. So given that you are all party members, and the party is also, there'll be an election very soon. If you do this and the students, the kids don't get food to eat, and the whole of their parents are unhappy, and they vote out your government, do you know that you will lose your job as well? Because, like you said, the NDC caterers will now come and replace you, so you will not get a job to do. Do you think about that?
That is why some of us are voicing out. That because of the way the women are bitter, and the children too are going through some kind of not getting food to eat, it is going to affect us. And that is why we are voicing out, that the leadership should hear and then come down to resolve it. And so it is better they listen to us and come down to resolve it. We are women, we are not difficult. They should just come. The way they get money, they find money to pay teachers and nurses. We deserve the same treatment. Because teachers teaching the school children, we also provide services. They provide intangible service and we provide tangible service. So we all deserve our payments.
I see. That's an interesting one. Intangible and tangible. That's an interesting one. So, what would be your last word? Your last word to government or to your secretariat and to your minister. What would be the last word to you, from you to them?
Thank you very much. I want to take this opportunity to tell my own government that the gender ministry, they are not proactive. And they are causing a lot of women to be angry. And because we will need the same women 2024, they should stand up and go to that ministry and do the needful thing. Secondly, it can be done. The government can also create a fund or a pool for locally people and the foreign people, the philanthropists and then the NGOs to contribute into that fund. Because we all know that we have financial challenges these days in our country, and not Ghana alone, a lot of countries. And so since this very initiative was to help the vulnerable and then alleviate poverty among men and women and then farmers, we have to do something and it will be fine. Thank you very much.
All right, but you have a new minister, right? You have a new minister. Have you tried to meet her? Of gender and social protection.
New minister of what?
Of social protection. Hajia Lariba Zuweba Abudu.
Oh, okay, we don't even know her.
No, she was deputy to Adwoa Safo.
Oh, okay.
Hajia Lariba Zuwera Abudu.
We love her. She should come down. Yes, he should come down to meet us. She's our mother. So he should come down.
I see. Thank you.
Because we don't know her.
Okay. You don't know her as minister or even as deputy, because she was deputy.
Yeah, Yes, because they were not coming down to us. We don't know them.
I see. All right, but of course, that's why there's an agency in between you and the ministry. So Madam Kwashiga is there, and I'm sure they are working on things for you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time this morning. And I'm sure your issues have been, of course, your issues have been well articulated, and I'm sure the powers that be will get the message. Thank you so much, Madam Dorothy Ofori-Sapon, Secretary to the School Feeding Caterers Association. We are grateful for your time. Honorable Issa, I don't know how to...
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. I don't know how to say it, but the concerns are well articulated. What do you say?
This is so long. When this whole thing started in 2005, it was supported by a lot of donor funding.
That's true.
Over time, its evolution and where our economy is going, we've seen the withdrawal of a lot of this donor funding, and we have had to bear the total cost. At the same time, we have seen a significant expansion. In fact, between 2016 and now, this whole program is expanded by about 117%. 117%. Why? Because we still are prioritizing.
Yes.
We are prioritizing it because we know that it's an investment into the future of this nation. And you see, obviously, when a government or an economy is heavy on social policies like this one, the resources will have to come from somewhere. The resources will have to come from somewhere.
But these are things that are obvious to people that are working. Okay, the children are fed and all of that. People see their children go to school, they eat, school enrollment numbers are up. Something like tree planting, it is important. But in this circumstance, question is that a priority? And many other things. But my real issue, as we wrap up, is she's raised issues about leadership. Okay, they speak highly of Otiko Jaba. I don't know what she did to them. I don't know where she is in the scheme of things. But they don't appear to speak highly about the other persons who have come, especially the school feeding secretariat itself. Is leadership listening?
I am not in a position to comment on leadership as either at the ministerial or at the agency level. I am not in a position. But for one of the issues that has come to the fore this morning, particularly the existence of ghost schools and the existence of ghost caterers who are still milking the system. It's kind of, because what I know that they have district coordinators who verify this. Maybe it's the way forward. I mean, we should find a way to digitally or remotely monitor some of this, and it's all going to cut down on the cost. But you see, the objects of this program is to create employment as well. Get a way to get some economic activity within the very basic. So I recollect that there are shortfalls. There's more to be done to this program. And I just call on all the stakeholders, all the agencies to come to the table.
Is it a concern really that, of course, they admit they are all NPP people, but is that how it should be? Is that how it should be?
Well, she's speaking from the Ashanti region. I don't really know how.
But it appears it cuts across.
But you see, what I know is that it is also managed from the district assemblies, and I don't think that the district assembly will call for a party card before a contract is signed. I'm not too sure. The MCE will be a party member, obviously. But I still cannot vouch to the extent that before you sign a contract, they are going to ask you to bring a party card, and your party card is going to be vetted as if you are going to stand for a parliamentary seat to see how long you belong to the party and whether or not you've been paying your dues, whether you are in good standing. I don't know that. All I know is that at the basic level, the contracts are actually administered by the assemblies, and it should be enough. Every Ghanaian should be able to.
Dr. Padu, you have 1 minute to wrap up.
Yeah. Well, I think my position on this issue is very clear. Government ought to prioritize it. Wherever government is going to find the resources, that should be done. I've given examples of what I consider to be wastage, where we are not getting value for money. I believe that financing this program properly, by paying the caterers their arrears and increasing the fee, is going to be money well spent, given the numbers.
The increment was just in 23.
Given the numbers.
Pesos.
Yeah, but it was in.
Yes, but it's no longer sufficient.
Then,
97 pesos.
Inflation
in
this
economy.
Shown that they have recognized the fact that.
But it must go up again.
Why is he deliberately
interfering
with my closing remarks?
Wait, so no, you
no,
still
was a point I forgot.
Okay. So the point I'm making is that government should prioritize the school feeding program, and the resources that are going to programs and secretariats that I feel are needless should be rechanneled to finance the school feeding program.
I see. Thank you so much, Dr. Apak. Dr. Clement Apak, MP for Bosa South, Deputy Ranking Member on the Education Committee in Parliament. Thank you so much to Honorable Fuseni Issa, former Member of Parliament for Kankwe North, working to go back again to Parliament, and also a former member of the Finance Committee when he was in Parliament.
I was on the Foreign Affairs Committee with him.
And Foreign Affairs Committee as well.
We work very...
I see. All right, so we've been looking, and then of course, we had Dorothy Oforisapon, Secretary of the School Feeding Caterers Association. So this is how we wrap up today's edition of The Big Issue. Thank you so much. My name is Selam Adunu. Catch you same time next week for another exciting edition. Have a good afternoon.
Another season of the City FM Family Consecration is here again. Your family radio station invites you to the 2023 edition of the Family Consecration Service. Let's hold ourselves in readiness as we prepare for a time of divine renewal, visitation, and restoration for our families and loved ones. Join us on Monday,